Chapter 1700. It did not cross anyone's mind that as soon as Li Feng left, Renzhong would announce that he was ranked first in the Rising Sky ranking. However, everyone present on the scene agreed with Renzhong's words. Put aside the fact that Li Feng had killed Su Jing, who was at the peak of the refined saint stage, just based on Li Feng's cultivation base at the peak of the refined saint stage, it was enough for him to be proud of himself. None of the participants of the Rising Sky ranking battle had any intention of fighting Li Feng at all. Due to this reason, even if Li Feng did not leave, the other ringmasters would only go through the motions when they fought with Li Feng, since they would admit defeat immediately. They would not dare to make a move in front of Li Feng. Up until now, everyone who fought with Li Feng had been killed. 3 Rising Sky Mansion's disciples had died in Li Feng's hands one after another. Although they did not know if Li Feng would only kill the Rising Sky Mansion's disciples and not the others, they did not dare to take the risk. If they made the wrong bet, they would die. Everyone only had one life. Once they died, they would have nothing left. Vice Mansion Master Run. Isn't this against the rules? Due to Duan Lingtian's departure and Renzhong and Lu Hongguang's obstruction, Su Zhen could not catch up to Duan Lingtian and kill him. When he heard Renzhong's words, he immediately mocked him. Although he felt that even if Li Feng did not leave, he would still be ranked first in the Rising Sky ranking in the end. However, when he thought about how Li Feng had left so calmly and even obtained the honor of being ranked first in the Rising Sky ranking, he was filled with resentment. Against the rules? Before Renzhong could speak, Lu Hongguang smirked coldly. Elder Su, it's not up to you to decide if it's against the rules or not, right? When Su Zhen's expression turned grave, someone immediately took the place of the Rising Sky Mansion's disciple who had become the ring master after Su Jing had admitted defeat. Now, among the 9 ring masters present, is there anyone who disagrees with Li Feng being ranked first in the Rising Sky ranking? If you don't agree, you can come to our Sky Hurdle Mansion and fight with Li Feng. Renzhong looked at the 9 champions in the ring and said with certainty. Hearing Renzhong's words, Lu Hongguang frowned, feeling somewhat uncomfortable in his heart. What did he mean by going to the Sky Hurdle Prefecture to fight with Li Feng? Could it be that Renzhong thought that Li Feng had already set his mind on the Sky Hurdle Mansion? Lu Hongguang immediately chimed in, unwilling to be outdone. That's right. If any of the 9 of you are unconvinced, you can come to the Raging Wave Mansion to challenge Li Feng in the future. If you win, the first place of the Rising Sky ranking will be yours. Hearing Renzhong and Lu Hongguang's words, the 9 arena champions looked at each other, but no one said anything for a long time. What a joke. Li Feng's strength was obvious to all. Fighting with Li Feng was absolutely courting death. I have no objections. Monk Jiro was the first to express his opinion. Because of Flowery Monk's death, Monk Jiro's expression didn't look good. That was his junior brother. He did not have any biological brothers and had long regarded Flowery Monk as his biological younger brother. Naturally, he was furious that his biological younger brother was killed. Now that Li Feng had killed Su Jing and indirectly avenged the Flowery Monk, he was very grateful to Li Feng. Naturally, he would not cause trouble for Li Feng at this moment. With Monk Jiro taking the lead to express his opinion, Jing Suzi and In Suzi from the Pure Yang Shrine followed suit. Subsequently, a few Seckless cultivators also expressed their opinions. Seeing the trend, the remaining few arena champions also expressed their opinions one by one, agreeing that Li Feng would be the first place of the Rising Sky ranking this time. In that case, the first place of the Rising Sky ranking has been decided. It's Li Feng. As for the second place to the 10th place, we'll begin tomorrow. Now, let's disperse. The moment Renzhong's words left his mouth, he joined forces with Lu Hongguang to remove the Nimble chess set. Everyone instantly appeared in the Nimble Valley. After 15 minutes, Renzhong and Lu Hongguang no longer stopped Su Zhen and the others from the Rising Sky Mansion. However, before Su Zhen left, he could not help but send a voice transmission to Renzhong and Lu Hongguang respectively. What he meant was that only one of them could obtain Duan Lingtian, and he was willing to offer some benefits in exchange for Duan Lingtian's whereabouts. As long as one of them told him Duan Lingtian's whereabouts, he would immediately offer the benefits he promised. Unfortunately, Renzhong and Lu Hongguang did not bother with him at all. Benefits? Would they lack anything that Su Zhen could offer? Moreover, What could be compared to a peerless genius like Li Feng? When Su Zhen saw that Ren Zhong and Lu Hongguang were ignoring him, his face turned pale. In the end, he gritted his teeth and left with the people from the Rising Sky Mansion furiously. Meanwhile, Duan Lingtian had already arrived at the Hengduan mountain range that was 100 miles west of the Nimble Valley. Have you heard? The mystical Sky Mansion will be recruiting Saint stage geniuses below the age of 40 in the Dao Martial Saintland in a year's time. It's said that the mystical Sky Mansion's Saint Martial Secret Zone will open in a year's time as well. In the dead of night, Duan Lingtian, who was resting on an ancient pine tree in the Hengduan mountain range, heard a voice that was getting closer and closer. He squinted his eyes and looked through the night, only to discover two people walking in the air side by side. Yes, I heard about it today as well. That's the Saint Martial Secret Zone that only quasi-third-rate forces have. Only Saint stage geniuses below the age of 40 are allowed to enter. Once they enter, even those with little fortuitous encounters will be greatly improved, let alone those with great fortuitous encounters. The other person's voice resonated in the air and gradually faded away. A short while later, the voices of the two disappeared because they had gradually gone far away. A quasi-third-rate force, mystical Sky Mansion? Recruiting Saint stage geniuses below the age of 40? Saint Martial Secret Zone? In the night sky, Duan Lingtian's eyes suddenly lit up like two stars in the night sky. Originally, he had planned to join either the Sky Hurdle Mansion or the Raging Wave Mansion according to the conditions set by Ren Zhong and Lu Hongguang after the Rising Sky ranking battle ended tomorrow. His goal was to use a fourth-rate force as a springboard to rise up. After he had broken through to the eminent Saint stage, he would head to the upper province of the Dao Martial Saintland to look for his fiancée Kerr. Moreover, he would use a fourth-rate force to inquire about his father's whereabouts. Now that he heard the quasi-third-rate force, the mystical Sky Mansion, was recruiting disciples and had set a rule that only Saint stage geniuses below the age of 40, he had another idea. Compared to a fourth-rate force, a quasi-third-rate force was undoubtedly a better springboard. Moreover, he was also curious about the Saint Martial Secret Zone that only quasi-third-rate forces had. This was because this was his first time hearing about the Saint Martial Secret Zone. If that's the case, I can only stand Vice Mansion Master Ren and Elder Lu up. Fortunately, I'm not using my true identity now. Li Feng is only an alias, so I don't have to worry about them hunting me down. With this thought in mind, Duan Lingtian left the Hengduan mountain range under the cover of the night. At this moment, whether it was Ran Zhong or Lu Hongguang, none of them knew Li Feng had already stood them up and left in advance. They were still waiting for the arrival of tomorrow. After the Rising Sky ranking battle ended tomorrow, it was very likely that Li Feng would join the force behind them. Just the thought of it made them feel excited. Naturally, Duan Lingtian was unaware of all this. Even if he knew, he would still leave. Whether it was Ren Zhong or Lu Hongguang, he knew very well the reason why they valued him. It was none other than his innate talent. Otherwise, the two of them would not have bothered about him at all. Now that he had a better choice, there was no need for him to focus on the Sky Hurdle Mansion and the Raging Wave Mansion. Although he knew it was Ran Zhong and Lu Hongguang's duty to protect him during the Rising Sky ranking battle, he still owed them a favor. Vice Mansion Master Ren, Elder Lu, if I have the chance in the future, I'll definitely return the favor. Duan Lingtian had never liked owing people favors. After leaving the Hengduan mountain range, Duan Lingtian returned to the Greenwave Han Mansion district and the Greenwave Han Mansion. With his current strength, unless it was a powerhouse at the eminent Saint stage or above in the Greenwave Han Mansion, nobody would be able to find him if he wanted to hide. Although he was only an intermediate pristine Saint stage martial cultivator, his strength was comparable to a martial cultivator at the peak of the refined Saint stage. Naturally, it would not matter even if he did not hide. After all, not only did he know the Greenwave Han Mansion's eldest miss, Han Xuanai, but he also knew the mansion master of Greenwave Han Mansion, Han Zhengtian. Originally, he wanted to look for Han Xuanai first to give her a surprise. However, after giving it some thought, Duan Lingtian decided to look for Han Zhengtian first. His uncle Han must be very anxious about this matter as well. For this reason, Duan Lingtian decided to reveal himself. The moment he revealed himself, he was, naturally, discovered by others. Due to the reason he had changed back to the cold face he had when he changed his name to Ling Tian, some of the Greenwave Han Mansion's disciples who were in charge of patrolling recognized him. For this reason, they did not make things difficult for him. Duan Ling Tian successfully met Han Zheng Tian, the mansion master of Greenwave Han Mansion. Little Tian, you're back? How was it? Han Zheng Tian asked impatiently when he saw Duan Ling Tian had returned. Calculating the time, the Rising Sky ranking battle should have ended by now. Since Duan Ling Tian had returned, it was obvious he had only returned after the Rising Sky ranking battle had ended. Fortunately, I didn't disappoint you. If it was Han Shu and I, Duan Ling Tian might tease her. However, it was not appropriate for him to joke around with Han Zheng Tian. That friend of yours really killed Su Jing? Han Zheng Tian was overjoyed, but he still wanted to confirm it. Previously, when Duan Ling Tian left, he had said he would ask a friend who seemed to be from a quasi-third-rate force to kill Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, during the Rising Sky ranking battle. For this reason, Han Zheng Tian did not know Duan Ling Tian had personally killed Su Jing. Yes. Duan Ling Tian nodded. Although he had succeeded, he did not explain much since he felt there was no need for him to do so. Little Tian, thank you. Naturally, Han Zheng Tian did not doubt Duan Ling Tian's words. After taking a deep breath, he bowed at Duan Ling Tian to express his gratitude, scaring Duan Ling Tian so much that he quickly moved away. Uncle Han, you can't do this. You can't do this. I treat Xuanai as my biological sister. Her matter is my matter. You're her father, and you're my senior as well. There's no need for you to be so polite. Upon hearing this, a smile appeared on Han Zheng Tian's face. At the same time, he sighed in relief as though a huge rock had been lifted from his heart. When Duan Ling Tian saw this, he bade farewell and left to look for Han Xuanai. Since he was bored along the way, Duan Ling Tian thought to himself and took out the spatial ring of Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion. When he dripped his blood on it in an attempt to claim ownership over it, he discovered it did not work. Naturally, Duan Ling Tian knew what this meant. Su Jing didn't die. Chapter 1701. A spatial ring required a drop of blood to claim ownership over it in order to control the space inside and store items. Usually, once a spatial ring had claimed ownership, unless the owner took the initiative to cancel the claim or the owner died, nobody else would be able to open it. Currently, Duan Ling Tian could not open the spatial ring that belonged to Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion. For this reason, there was only one possibility. Su Jing was not dead. Impossible. However, when this thought appeared in Duan Ling Tian's mind, he thought it was impossible. Previously, when he killed Su Jing, he had used the sword ray consolidated from the 10,000 swords territory and the profundity of the second stage of the Sovereign Heart Sword, the sword shadow following the heart, and his powerful physical strength to cast his most powerful sword strike and directly pierce through the space between Su Jing's brows. The space between the brows and the heart was a human's Achilles heel. The heart controlled the body while the space between the brows controlled the soul. Piercing through the space between the brows was equivalent to destroying the soul. This was also the safest way to kill. If he attacked the heart, there was still a certain risk since some people's hearts were slanted. At that time, if Duan Ling Tian could not kill Su Jing with just one strike, Su Jing would have admitted defeat the moment he regained his senses. For this reason, he did not attack Su Jing's heart since he did not dare to take the risk. Due to this reason, he chose the safest way and pierced through the space between Su Jing's brows with his sword to destroy Su Jing's soul. At that time, I had extended my divine consciousness to investigate as well. Su Jing's soul had clearly dissipated as his body fell. Logically speaking, it's impossible for him to survive since his soul has already begun to dissipate. However, why can't his spatial ring claim ownership over him? Duan Ling Tian's expression was slightly grave. Perhaps there were many good things in Su Jing's spatial ring, including the flowery monk, Jing Su Zi, and Zhonggu's spatial rings, but Duan Ling Tian was not thinking about taking the things out. Instead, he was thinking about the reason why the spatial ring could not claim ownership over him. After thinking about it for a long time, there was only one possibility. Su Jing was not dead. Hua Lao. Duan Lingtian, who was unwilling to believe that Su Jing was still alive, immediately contacted Hua Lao, who was inside the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, to ask for the reason. When Hua Lao was at his peak, he was a powerful existence in the Devata realm. Perhaps he might be able to tell him something useful. After listening to Duan Lingtian's story, Hua Lao pondered for a moment and asked, "You said he's a demonic cultivator?" "Yes." Duan Lingtian nodded before he continued to say, "I heard from other people that Su Jing wasn't a devil cultivator a year ago. Moreover, he was only at the early refined saint stage. When he reappeared a year later, not only had he become a devil cultivator, but his cultivation base had also risen to the peak of the refined saint stage." Truth be told, even Duan Lingtian was shocked by Su Jing's progress. In fact, even with the help of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, 5 days in the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda was equivalent to 1 day outside. He was not confident he could cultivate from the early refined saint stage to the peak of the refined saint stage in a year outside. Before the Rising Sky ranking battle began, he had stayed in the 3rd level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda for almost 4 years. Although he had spent part of his time comprehending the Sovereign Heartsword, most of his time was spent on raising his cultivation base. However, he had only managed to stabilize his early refined saint stage cultivation base and break through to the intermediate refined saint stage. Although Duan Lingtian was currently at the intermediate refined saint stage, he was very close to the mastery refined saint stage. Apart from that, his battle strength was comparable to an ordinary powerhouse at the peak of the refined saint stage. This could be seen from the fact that he could kill Su Jing. He managed to improve so much in such a short time, and even became a devil cultivator. I think the Devil Dao cultivation method he cultivated must have recorded the soul congregation technique. Hua Lao's voice resonated in the air. Soul congregation? Duan Lingtian's eyes widened in shock. This was his first time hearing this term. "Yes, it's soul congregation," Hua Lao replied. "Some of the brilliant Devil Dao cultivation methods and Taoist celestial methods have records of the soul congregation technique. Soul congregation refers to the ability to reform one's soul after it's destroyed. Naturally, even if it's reformed, it'll take some time for it to fully recover." "Then, does this mean he can come back to life?" Duan Lingtian gasped. "You can say that," Hua Lao replied again. Upon hearing Hua Lao's words, Duan Lingtian's expression turned grave immediately. "Then, not only is Su Jing still alive, but he can even reform his destroyed soul and come back to life with the soul congregation technique? How could this be?" Duan Lingtian muttered to himself as his face began to twitch. The reason he had traveled so far to the Rising Sky Mansions district to participate in the Rising Sky ranking battle was to kill Su Jing and save Xuan'ai. Initially, he thought he had killed Su Jing, but he did not expect things to turn out this way. Now, Uncle Han also thinks Su Jing is dead. If he finds out Su Jing is still alive, I wonder how disappointed he'll be. As time passed by, Duan Lingtian's expression turned grave. Duan Lingtian, who originally planned to look for Han Xuan'ai to report the good news, did not look for Han Xuan'ai when he recalled Su Jing was still alive. Instead, he left the Greenwave Han Mansion's estate alone. He needed to calm down now. "Hua Lao, you said it'll take some time for his soul to recover even if he uses the soul congregation technique. How long will it take?" Duan Lingtian asked Hua Lao again. "How long will it take depends on the soul congregation technique he has mastered. There are different grades of soul congregation techniques as well. However, even if it's the best soul congregation technique I know, it'll take at least 1.5 years to gather the soul of a powerhouse at the peak of the refined saint stage and possess a body for rebirth." Hua Lao replied, 1.5 years? Upon hearing this, Duan Lingtian heaved a sigh of relief immediately. Earlier, he was most worried that Su Jing would be able to recover immediately and the engagement between Su Jing and Xuan'ai would still go on. However, it seemed like he would not be able to fulfill this engagement for the time being. Duan Lingtian felt more at ease for the time being. 1.5 years. It's the best soul congregation technique Hua Lao has ever seen. The technique that Su Jing has mastered shouldn't be that powerful. It'll take him at least 2 to 3 years. The moment Duan Lingtian thought of this, he felt even more at ease. However, His gaze gradually turned sharp. Su Jing, I can't believe you're still alive. However, since I can kill you once, I can kill you a second time. In 2 to 3 years' time, it'll be as easy as killing a dog for me to kill you. Duan Lingtian was filled with confidence regarding this. After 2 to 3 years' time, even if Su Jing had completely gathered his soul and possessed a body for rebirth, his cultivation base would at most be at its peak. Currently, Duan Lingtian could kill him. In another 2 to 3 years' time, it would be even easier for Duan Lingtian to kill Su Jing if his cultivation base remained the same. At that time, I'll use Li Feng's identity as an excuse to make a move on him. I'll just say that I'm unwilling to accept the fact that I didn't manage to kill him in the Rising Sky ranking battle and that a demon has appeared in my martial Dao heart, causing my path to the martial Dao to be blocked. Therefore, I'll use his life to clear all the obstacles in my path. In this way, the Green Wave Han Mansion won't be implicated. The moment Duan Lingtian thought of this, he felt completely at ease. No matter what, the Rising Sky Mansion would not link Li Feng to the Green Wave Han Mansion. Due to this reason, he was not worried about implicating the Green Wave Han Mansion. In another month's time, the Rising Sky Mansion will come to fetch the bride. However, now that Su Jing's soul has dissipated and he's in a coma, it's impossible for him to marry Xuan no matter what. Xuan will be safe for the next 2 to 3 years. The moment Duan Lingtian thought of this, he sighed in relief. It seemed like his trip to the Rising Sky Mansion's district was not in vain after all. After thinking it through, Duan Lingtian went to look for Han Xuanai. Brother Lingtian. When Han Xuanai saw Duan Lingtian appearing in front of her again, she was, naturally, pleasantly surprised. A smile appeared on her originally gloomy face. However, this smile was bitter no matter how one looked at it. Brother Lingtian, where have you been in this 1 year? Han Xuanai did not wait for Duan Lingtian's reply and continued to ask. I went to the Rising Sky Mansion's district. Duan Lingtian smiled. You went to the Rising Sky Mansion's district? Upon hearing this, the smile on Han Xuanai's face froze immediately. The 3 words Rising Sky Mansion were no different from a curse to her. In a month's time, she would be marrying that good-for-nothing rich kid in the Rising Sky Mansion. When Duan Lingtian saw Xuanai's expression froze and pain could be seen in her eyes, he immediately dismissed the idea of teasing her. He said bluntly, Xuanai, don't worry. The Rising Sky Mansion won't be coming to pick you up after a month. Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, has died in the Rising Sky ranking battle. The instant Duan Lingtian's words left his mouth, Han Xuanai was completely stunned. Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, was dead? He died in the Rising Sky ranking battle? This news was no different from a heavy bomb to Han Xuanai. It caused her heart to be in a mess. She, naturally, did not doubt Brother Lingtian's words. Although she did not know who had killed Su Jing, this surprise had come too quickly. Duan Lingtian looked at Han Xuanai calmly. From the beginning until the end, he did not miss the changes in Han Xuanai's expression. In the beginning, it was shock. Then, it was disbelief. After that, it was a pleasant surprise. Duan Lingtian sighed inwardly. For the time being, he did not plan to tell Han Xuanai that Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, was still alive. After all, the crisis at hand had temporarily been resolved. Brother Lingtian, his death, has something to do with you, doesn't it? Although Han Xuanai also felt her thoughts were a little wild, she had a strong feeling that the death of Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, had something to do with her brother Lingtian. Calculating the time, the Rising Sky ranking battle had just ended a while ago. Yes. Chapter 1702. Although Han Xuanai was already mentally prepared, she was still shocked when she heard this from her big brother Lingtian. Originally, she thought this matter had something to do with her big brother Lingtian. It did not cross her mind that her big brother Lingtian was the one who personally made the move. However, now that she heard her big brother Lingtian said he was the one who personally made the move, how could she not be shocked by this? Big brother Lingtian, your strength. Han Xuanai looked at Duan Lingtian in a daze. Her face was filled with shock and disbelief. Other people might not understand Duan Lingtian, but Han Xuanai knew him very well. Although Duan Lingtian's innate talent was not bad, she did not think Duan Lingtian would be able to kill Su Jing at all. Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, was already at the early refined saint stage a year ago. After a year, with the resources from the Rising Sky Mansion, it was not difficult for him to break through to the intermediate refined saint stage. However, her big brother Ling Tian had killed Su Jing? Did this not mean her big brother Ling Tian's strength was at the intermediate refined saint stage or above? My cultivation base is only at the intermediate refined saint stage. However, due to my unique true origin, I can cross a stage to fight my opponent. Duan Lingtian smiled. Intermediate refined saint stage? Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Han Shuanai sighed in relief. Compared to his cultivation base at the intermediate refined saint stage or above, this cultivation base was still acceptable. However, when she regained her senses and recalled the second half of Duan Lingtian's words, she could not help but exclaim in shock, Cross a stage to fight your opponent? At this moment, Han Shuanai looked at Duan Lingtian as though she had just seen a ghost. Was there such a true origin in this world? Yes. Duan Lingtian smiled and nodded. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be a match for Su Jing. However, Shuanai, I've only told you about this. As for Uncle Han, I told him that I asked a friend from a quasi-third-rate force to help, and that friend of mine is called Li Feng. If father knew that it was you, brother Ling Tian, who did it personally, he would definitely be dumbstruck. After learning that Su Jing was dead, Han Shuanai's gloominess was swept away. She seemed to have returned to the mischievous Han Shuanai of the past. Seeing this, Duan Lingtian was also very happy, because this was the ending he wanted. Of course, it was still too early to talk about the end. It'll take at least 2 to 3 years for Su Jing to recover. For this reason, it won't affect me from going to the quasi-third-rate force, the mystical Sky Mansion. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. Previously, he had stood Rinzhong and Lu Hongguang up and returned to the Green Wave Han Mansion first because he had learned that the mystical Sky Mansion would be recruiting Saint Stage geniuses below the age of 40. Not only was the mystical Sky Mansion a good springboard for him, but he was also very curious about the Saint Martial Secret Zone that would open in a year's time as well. Although Duan Lingtian planned to go to the mystical Sky Mansion, he was not in a hurry. I'll wait for another month. If nobody from the Rising Sky Mansion comes, I'll return to the Windfall Nation to visit senior brother, Uncle Feng, and the others. I didn't even inform Tian Wu before I left. I wonder if she's unhappy or not. Duan Lingtian smiled wryly when he reached the end of his sentence. Oh, that's right. Brother Ling Tian, Sister Tian Wu came to look for you not long after you left. When Duan Lingtian thought about Feng Tianwu and smiled wryly, Han Shuanai seemed to have recalled something and said in a timely manner, Tian Wu? She came to look for me? When Duan Lingtian heard this, he could not help but be taken aback. Yes. Han Shuanai nodded. Originally, I planned to ask Sister Tian Wu to stay and let her wait for you in the Green Wave Han Mansion. However, she didn't wait for long before she left because even I wasn't sure if you would return. When Han Shuanai reached the end of her sentence, she felt a little embarrassed. Tian Wu actually found the Green Wave Han Mansion? Duan Lingtian could not regain his senses for a long time. At the same time, his heart was filled with gratitude. Since Tian Wu left the Drift Blaze sect, her cultivation base must have broken through to the pristine saint stage. I wonder where she went after leaving the Green Wave Han Mansion. Forget it. When I arrive at the quasi-third-rate force, the mystical Sky Mansion, I'll just have to announce my name as Ling Tian. Tian Wu will definitely guess it's me. Although the Dao Martial Saint Land was only in the lower province, it was still extremely vast. Due to this reason, it was impossible for Duan Lingtian to look for Feng Tianwu without any clues. Doing so would be no different from looking for a needle in a haystack. However, even though Feng Tianwu had left the Windfall Nation in the Southern Ridge Yuan Mansions district, Duan Lingtian did not dismiss the thought of returning to the Windfall Nation. There were many people he cared about in that place. Not only were there his elders, but there were also his senior brothers and his friends. Naturally, it was not that Duan Lingtian did not think of bringing Bai Li Hong, Feng Wu Dao, and the others to the Green Wave Han Mansion. However, if he did that, it would undoubtedly be announcing to everyone that he, Duan Lingtian, was related to the Greenwave Han mansion. In fact, at this moment, the name Duan Lingtian had already spread through the entire WCI subterranean. In the WCI subterranean, apart from some ignorant people, almost everyone knew about Duan Lingtian. Perhaps, Duan Lingtian's innate talent and strength did not garner much attention, but the Devil Seal tablet in his hand was something that everyone in the WCI subterranean paid attention to. The Devil Seal tablet was one of the 10 famous Super Saint artifacts on the 10 Great Saint artifact ranking. Even someone from a quasi-third-rate force would covet it. Due to this reason, Duan Lingtian did not want to reveal his true identity before he had a certain level of strength. In the future, he would be known as Lingtian. This was also his name in his past life. It was not difficult for Duan Lingtian to guess that many people must have their eyes on the Windfall Nation now. His family and friends would be the first to bear the brunt. If he brought them over now, the Greenwave Han mansion would definitely be implicated. This was not something he was willing to see. Due to this reason, in his opinion, letting them stay in Windfall Nation was undoubtedly the best choice. After bidding farewell to Han Xuanai and asking her to bid farewell to the mansion master of Greenwave Han Mansion, Han Zhengtian, on his behalf, Duan Lingtian left the Greenwave Han Mansion's estate under Han Xuanai's reluctant gaze. As for Little Black, Little White, and Little Gold, they were still in closed-door cultivation, so Duan Lingtian did not meet them. After leaving the Greenwave Han Mansion, Duan Lingtian made his way to the Southern Ridge Yuan Mansions district. While Duan Lingtian was returning to Windfall Nation, in the faraway Rising Sky Mansions district, the fourth-rate force, the Rising Sky Mansion, was also in an uproar. After the Rising Sky ranking battle had ended, the Grand Elder of Rising Sky Mansion, Sutsun, was not in a hurry to bring his men back to the Rising Sky Mansion. Instead, he called out to a Vice Mansion Master of Rising Sky Mansion, who happened to be in a nearby city. Both of them led their men to search the Nimble Valley in all directions, searching for the whereabouts of Li Feng, whom Duan Lingtian had disguised himself as. Not only that, but the Vice Mansion Master of Rising Sky Mansion, who was good at hiding, even boldly followed Renzhong and Lu Hongguang all the way to the Transverse Mountain Range that was 100 miles west of the Nimble Valley after the Rising Sky ranking battle had ended. In the Transverse Mountain Range, he noticed Renzhong and Lu Hongguang's expression was extremely grave. At that time, although he was far away, he could still hear the discussion between the people from Sky Hurdle Mansion and Raging Wave Mansion. The content of their discussion was none other than scolding Li Feng, saying that Li Feng had stood them up. When the Vice Mansion Master of Rising Sky Mansion and Grand Elder Sutsun saw the people from Sky Hurdle Mansion and Raging Wave Mansion leaving in anger, they once again began to search in all directions. After searching for many days, they still could not find Li Feng's whereabouts at all. At this time, Sutsun could only bring his men back to the Rising Sky Mansion's estate dejectedly. He knew what awaited him would be the wrath of the Rising Sky Mansion's high-ranking officials. It was fine that the 3 Rising Sky Mansion's disciples, including his grandson, had died. Among the 3 of them, his grandson was the most outstanding. Although his grandson's death was a great blow to the Rising Sky Mansion, not only did the Rising Sky Mansion's high-ranking officials not blame him, but they even comforted him because he was his grandson. However, other than the 3 Rising Sky Mansion's disciples, including his grandson, there was another person who had died. That person meant a lot to the Rising Sky Mansion. Not only was Su Jing the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, but based on the strength he had displayed in the Rising Sky ranking battle, it was obvious how monstrous his innate talent was. When he grew up in the future, he would definitely become the pillar of the Rising Sky Mansion. It was not impossible for him to lead the Rising Sky Mansion to become a quasi-third-rate force. Now, Lord Mansion Master must have found out about young Mansion Master's death through his shattered soul pearl. The moment Sutsun thought of this, cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Although this matter did not have much to do with him, as the leader this time, he would not be able to escape the blame for failing to protect the juniors. Although he would not be sentenced to death, he would definitely be punished by facing the wall for many years. Due to this reason, Sutsun was extremely anxious when he entered the Rising Sky Mansion's estate. His gaze would occasionally shift to the back. There was a hunchbacked young man carrying a body. That body was none other than Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion. Huh. All of a sudden, Suitsin came to a halt as though he had sensed something. With just a glance, he saw a group of people led by the mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion was flying toward him in a majestic and menacing manner. This posture caused him to feel a wave of fear in his heart. However, what happened next stunned him. "My condolences, Grand Elder. My condolences, Grand Elder." After the group of high-ranking officials, led by the mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, appeared in front of Suitsin, they began to console him softly. It was apparent they already knew about the death of his grandson. Sukan's soul pearl was in the Rising Sky Mansion's estate. Due to this reason, when Sukan's soul pearl shattered, everyone in the Rising Sky Mansion knew he was dead. God is really jealous of geniuses. If nothing happened to Sukan, he would have been able to compete with the young mansion master in the future. It's not impossible for him to become the next mansion master. Many high-ranking officials sighed emotionally. All of you. When Suitsin saw the group of people, including the mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, only mentioned the death of his grandson, Sukan, and did not mention the young mansion master, Sujing, at all, Suitsin was stunned. At the same time, he felt something was amiss. Chapter 1703. Don't tell me they haven't noticed that the young mansion master's soul pearl has shattered as well? Suitsin thought to himself as the high-ranking officials of Rising Sky Mansion comforted him. However, he did not think it was possible. At this moment, this was the only thing he could think of. Otherwise, he would not be able to figure out why these people were only comforting him. It was obvious the high-ranking officials of Rising Sky Mansion, including the mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, did not know about the death of young mansion master Sujing. Lord Mansion Master, Sukan was not as strong as others. He sacrificed himself for the Rising Sky Mansion. I've already gotten over it. However, the young mansion master. Suitsin looked at the mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion. Initially, when he mentioned his grandson, he suppressed his grief. However, in the end, he could not help but smile wryly as he turned to look behind him. What happened to Jinger? Sukan's words caused Sui Chung, the mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, to turn pale immediately. He immediately looked in the direction Suitsin was looking at. With just a glance, he saw the body the hunchbacked young man was carrying. Whoosh! As though a gust of wind had blown past, the hunchbacked young man took a step back. The body on his shoulder had already fallen into Sui Cheng's arms. Young mansion master. When the high-ranking officials of Rising Sky Mansion who followed Sui Chung saw the dried blood on the body with a bloody hole between his brows, horror dawned on them. With such injuries, it was impossible for him to survive. Impossible. At this moment, Sui Chung looked at his son in his arms in disbelief. At the same time, he freed his hand and took out a soul pearl. The soul pearl belonged to his son, Sujing. The soul pearl was not damaged at all. This meant his son was not dead. When Suitsin, the Grand Elder of Rising Sky Mansion, saw Sui Chung taking out a soul pearl with an expression of disbelief on his face, he could not help but feel chills running down his spine. Lord Mansion Master, the soul pearl in your hand is... This is Jing Er's soul pearl. He's not dead. Sui Cheng's tone was firm. A soul pearl would not lie. What? He's not dead? The space between his brows is pierced, and his soul is destroyed. The young mansion master is still alive after suffering such heavy injuries? That's impossible. At this moment, Suitsin was not the only one who was stunned. The group of Rising Sky Mansion's high-ranking officials and the group of Rising Sky Mansion's disciples behind Suitsin were stunned as well. This was especially true for the Rising Sky Mansion's disciples who had returned with Su Xian. They had personally witnessed Su Jing being killed. A sword pierced through the space between his brows, causing his soul to dissipate. Even a great overarching golden celestial would not be able to save him. And now, the mansion master was saying that the young mansion master was still alive? Could it be that Lord Mansion Master has lost his mind after seeing the Vice Mansion Master dead? Many of the Rising Sky Mansion's disciples thought to themselves. Of course, they only dared to think such words in their hearts and did not dare to say it out loud. Of course, most people's eyes were still on the soul orb in Sui Cheng's hand. Their hearts were filled with confusion. Is this really the young Mansion Master's soul orb? Vice Mansion Master is clearly dead, so how could his soul orb be intact? Did Lord Mansion Master take the wrong soul orb? At this moment, they only thought that the Mansion Master had mistaken someone else's soul orb for the young Mansion Master's. The Mansion Master of Rising Sky Mansion, Sui Chung, was a tall and well-built middle-aged man with an ordinary appearance. At this moment, he extended his divine consciousness and entered his son's body. Soon after, he sensed a faint aura in the depths of his son's head. It was the aura of a soul. It was very weak, but it was extremely familiar to him. This was because the aura of this soul was exactly the same as the aura of the soul in the soul orb in his hand. Jing'er. Although Sui Chung did not know why his son was still alive after suffering such a heavy injury, this was not what he was concerned about. He was more concerned about whether his son would be able to recover. Such a weak soul aura, if he was not careful, it was very likely that it would dissipate completely. Father, I need a quiet room. 3 years at most? I'll definitely be able to recover. As Su Yicheng's consciousness wrapped around that wisp of spiritual aura, a voice was transmitted through his consciousness. After the voice sounded, the soul that was already weak seemed to have weakened even more. Good. When Sui Chung heard his son's voice and found out his son was still alive and had a chance to recover, he immediately threw everything else to the back of his mind. He immediately carried Sui Chung back to the mansion he usually stayed in and placed him in a quiet room in the basement. Everyone, including Sutsun, was stunned when they saw the Mansion Master suddenly leaving with the young Mansion Master's body. However, they soon saw Sui Chung had returned. They noticed the Lord Mansion Master's expression was extremely gloomy at this moment. However, they were not surprised by this at all. After all, nobody would be in a good mood when their only son was dead. Grand Elder, what happened during the Rising Sky ranking battle? Why is my son injured to such an extent? Moreover, why did your grandson, Su Kan, and 2 other people die? Sui Chung asked in a deep voice as soon as he returned to the mansion. Injured? Upon hearing Sui Cheng's words, not only Sutsun, but everyone present on the scene was stunned as well. Lord Mansion Master said the young Mansion Master was injured? Was the young Mansion Master not dead? Lord Mansion Master, the young Mansion Master. At this moment, one of the Vice Mansion Masters of the Rising Sky Mansion could no longer hold it in. He looked at Sui Chung and asked, He's only injured? He's severely injured. He'll need at least 3 years to fully recover, Sui Chung said coldly. Based on his tone, it was obvious he was in a bad mood. It made sense. How could a father be in a good mood when his only son was injured to such an extent? However, Sui Cheng's gaze did not leave Sutsun from the beginning until the end. He really could not figure out what had happened during the Rising Sky ranking battle that caused 3 of the most outstanding people among the middle-aged generation in the Rising Sky Mansion to die and want to be injured. He's only injured? Upon hearing Sui Cheng's words, whether it was Sutsun or the others, they looked as though they had just seen a ghost. An expression of disbelief appeared on their faces. In fact, they had seen Su Jing's body before. His head was pierced from the center of his brows. Logically speaking, his soul should have dissipated as well. It was impossible for him to be alive. However, the Lord Mansion Master actually said he was only injured and would recover in 3 years? Lord Mansion Master, why you're telling the truth? Sutsun asked in disbelief. At the same time, the others also looked at Sui Chung, the Mansion Master of Rising Sky Mansion. They were also curious about this since they thought it was impossible. However, since the Lord Mansion Master had said so, there must be a reason. I don't know what happened to Jing'er either. Although he was injured and his soul was severely damaged, his soul didn't disperse or vanish. Not only that, he even used his weak soul to contact me. He said that he would recover in 3 years at most. Due to this reason, I really want to know what happened during the Rising Sky ranking battle and what happened to Jing'er. When Sui Chung reached the end of his sentence, he looked at Sutsun again. He's really not dead. However, at this moment, Sutsun and the others were not paying attention to the second half of Sui Cheng's sentence. This was because they were completely shocked by the first half of Sui Cheng's sentence. His soul did not dissipate even though he was severely injured? What kind of monster was the young mansion master? Could it be that the young mansion master knows the soul congregation technique? At this moment, an old vice mansion master said hesitantly, "Soul congregation?" Everyone, including Sui Chung, the mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, immediately shifted their attention to the vice mansion master. They knew this vice mansion master very well. Although his strength was not the best in the Rising Sky Mansion, he was extremely knowledgeable. He had read almost all the books that were passed down in the Rising Sky Mansion for generations. In the Rising Sky Mansion, if he claimed to be the second most knowledgeable person, nobody would dare to claim to be the first. Yes, it's the soul congregation technique. The old vice mansion master nodded. Then, he said solemnly, "I've read about it in an ancient book that has been passed down for generations in the Rising Sky Mansion. It said that some of the top devil cultivation methods have records of the soul congregation technique. Even if the soul is temporarily destroyed, it'll be able to reform in a short time. However, the process of reforming one's soul is extremely difficult. Moreover, it would take at least 3 to 5 years for one's soul to completely recover and for one's soul to fuse with one's body again. It might even take longer than that." When he reached this part of the sentence, he paused for a moment before continuing. "Just like that devil cultivator who caused our Rising Sky Mansion to fall from a quasi-third-rate force to a fourth-rate force. According to the ancient book, the vicious devil Tao cultivation method, the devouring dark devil technique, is a top devil Tao cultivation method. It also contains the soul congregation technique. Devil cultivator, the devouring dark devil technique." Upon hearing the vice mansion master's words, the scene fell silent immediately. Almost everyone in the Rising Sky Mansion knew about the past of the Rising Sky Mansion. The devil cultivator who cultivated the vicious devil Tao cultivation method, the devouring dark devil technique, was also someone everyone in the Rising Sky Mansion hated to the core. It was because of that devil cultivator that the Rising Sky Mansion had fallen to such a state. If the young mansion master is a devil cultivator and has cultivated a top devil Tao cultivation method, it's not surprising that he knows the soul congregation technique. However, the problem is, as far as I know, the young mansion master is not a devil cultivator. The old vice mansion master continued to say. The moment the old vice mansion master's words left his mouth, Sui Chung and the group of people who did not go to the Rising Sky ranking battle nodded one after another. However, the group of people who had just returned from the Nimble Valley, including Sutsun, looked at each other in confusion. This was because only they knew the young mansion master was a devil cultivator. Nobody noticed. Chapter 1704. As the lackey of Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, he knew about Su Jing's matter from the beginning until the end. In the entire Rising Sky Mansion, apart from Su Jing himself, he was the only one who knew about Su Jing cultivating the devouring dark devil technique. Initially, he thought he would lose his backer since the young mansion master was dead. He did not expect things would take a turn for the better. First, the mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion confirmed the young mansion master was still alive. Then, the old vice mansion master even mentioned the devouring dark devil technique and the soul congregation technique in the devouring dark devil technique. With this, he knew that his young master's life was saved. This was because his young mansion master cultivated the devouring dark devil technique. Although he knew this, he did not dare to say it out loud even if his young mansion master was still alive. This was because he had sworn on the lightning penalty oath not to reveal the young mansion master's secret. "Lord Mansion Master, there's something I must tell you." Sutsun, the Grand Elder of Rising Sky Mansion, looked at Sui Chung, the mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, and said solemnly, "During the Rising Sky ranking battle, the young mansion master was already a devil cultivator. I think young mansion master must have obtained a top devil Tao cultivation method and fell into the devil Tao to become a devil cultivator. Not only that, but his strength has also increased greatly." When Sutsun recalled the powerful strength Su Jing had displayed during the Rising Sky ranking battle and the old vice mansion master's words, the doubts in his heart were cleared up. As it turned out, young mansion master Su Jing's fortuitous encounter was to obtain a top devil Tao cultivation method. When he recalled Su Jing had only spent a year to cultivate from the early refined saint stage to the peak of the refined saint stage, his heart trembled. The top Devil Dao cultivation method he cultivates is too heaven-defying, right? The moment Su Tsin's words left his mouth, apart from the group of people who followed him back, everyone, including Sui Chung, the mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, was stunned. In the end, Sui Chung was the first to regain his senses. He looked at Su Tsin and said in a deep voice, "Grand Elder, tell me everything that happened during the Rising Sky ranking battle, including how your grandson, Su Kan, and the other two people were killed. Of course, tell me about my son as well." His son had become a devil cultivator, but he didn't know about it. This made Sui Chung a little depressed. "Yes, Manor Lord." Facing Sui Cheng's gaze, Su Tsin didn't dare dally and slowly explained the sequence of events. When they learned that one of their Rising Sky Mansion's disciples was killed by Zhonggu, a few of the high-ranking officials from the Rising Sky Mansion were enraged. How dare that Zhonggu kill our Rising Sky Mansion's disciple? Lord Mansion Master, our Rising Sky Mansion will definitely not let Zhonggu go. As they finished speaking, they spoke to Su Yicheng with righteous indignation. "There's no need for that." Su Tsin shook his head. After that, he faced the gazes of the majority of the people, including Sui Chung, and said, "Zhonggu was killed by the young mansion master." Upon hearing this, the few Rising Sky Mansion's high-ranking officials' anger dissipated. According to the script, they should be praising Su Jing, the young mansion master, at this moment. However, when they thought about Su Jing's current situation, they did not say anything. "Go on," Sui Ching urged. Then, Su Tsun mentioned Li Feng and told them how Li Feng had killed his grandson, Su Kan, after killing a Rising Sky Mansion's disciple. When Su Tsun reached this part of the story, his expression turned grave immediately. No matter what, Su Kan was his grandson. For a time, the flames of hatred in his heart could not help but rise, and it was difficult to extinguish for a long time. Li Feng? A sexless cultivator? The group of Rising Sky Mansion's high-ranking officials, including Sui Chung, frowned when they heard this. "I've never heard of such a sexless cultivator in our Rising Sky Mansion's district before this. He's actually able to kill Su Kan, who's at the intermediate refined saint stage. His strength is definitely not inferior to Zhonggu." Hermph. This Li Feng actually dares to kill someone from our Rising Sky Mansion. He must be tired of living. Don't worry. This Li Feng must have been killed by the young mansion master as well. That's right. There's no point in arguing with a dead person. When the group of Rising Sky Mansion's people, including Su Tsin, heard the words of the group of Rising Sky Mansion's high-ranking officials, the corners of their mouths twitched. Huh. As the mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion, Su Yicheng's observation skills were, naturally, incomparable to others. Soon after, he noticed the strange expressions on Su Tsin and the others' faces. His heart jolted immediately. "Don't tell me Jing, his injury has something to do with Li Feng?"
Yes.
Su Tsin nodded with a wry smile on his face. Then, under Su Yicheng's cold gaze, he continued to recount what happened. He told them about how Su Jing, the young mansion master, had appeared and killed Zhonggu, the flowery monk, and Jing Suzi, who had joined forces. What? The young mansion master killed the flowery monk and Jing Suzi? He even killed them when they joined forces? The group of Rising Sky Mansion's high-ranking officials broke into an uproar when they heard this. In fact, Su Tsin had mentioned earlier that the flowery monk and Jing Suzi's cultivation base were at the mastery refined saint stage. However, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion actually managed to kill two intermediate refined saint stage powerhouses when they joined forces? Unbelievable. This was exactly how they felt at this moment. Even Sui Chung was shocked. It did not cross his mind that his son would become so strong after a year. The young mansion master is a devil cultivator at the peak of the refined saint stage. When Su Tsin said this, the group of Rising Sky Mansion's high-ranking officials, including Sui Chung, were stunned. After a year, he had broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage from the early refined saint stage? What kind of terrifying progress was this? Fortunately, Jing is still alive. At this moment, Sui Chung was not the only one rejoicing. Even the group of Rising Sky Mansion's high-ranking officials, including Sutsun, were rejoicing as well. Sutsun, in particular, felt as though he had regained something he had lost. Moreover, since Su Jing was still alive, this meant he would not be punished anymore. After Sutsun finished recounting what happened, the entire place fell silent again. The sexless cultivator, Li Feng, whom they had never heard of before, was also a martial cultivator at the peak of the refined saint stage. Moreover, he was not even 40 years old yet. Such innate talent was as rare as a phoenix's feather and Chilin's horn in the Debussy subterranean. However, he had appeared in the Rising Sky Mansion's district. That Li Feng really doesn't know what's good for him. When the group of Rising Sky Mansion's high-ranking officials learned that Li Feng had rejected Sutsun's invitation, they began to curse one after another. However, when they learned that Li Feng did not go to the Sky Hurdle Mansion or the Raging Wave Mansion, they felt slightly better. Since we can't recruit this Li Feng, we can only kill him. Su Yicheng's eyes flashed coldly as he said in a deep voice, "He killed 2 of my Rising Sky Mansion's disciples and injured my son to such an extent. I won't be at ease if this Li Feng doesn't die." Then, Su Yicheng asked Sutsun to draw a portrait and ordered the Rising Sky Mansion's forces outside to search for Li Feng and kill Li Feng. Never in his wildest dreams would he have thought that Li Feng was actually just an alias. Moreover, the person in the portrait was just a disguise. It was not certain if this face would appear again in the future. Due to this reason, no matter how the people from the Rising Sky Mansion searched, they would not be able to find Li Feng. Suddenly, the old Vice Mansion Master seemed to have thought of something. He looked at Su Yicheng and asked, "Lord Mansion Master, now that the young Mansion Master is severely injured and will need at least 3 years to recover, how should we arrange the wedding of the eldest miss of the 5th-rate force, the Green Wave Han Mansion, in a month's time? Should we give them a heads up?" The others immediately looked at Su Yicheng as well. They knew a little about this matter. "Since my son is injured to such an extent, the wedding can only be postponed. There's no need to inform a mere 5th-rate force. Moreover, it won't take long for the news of my son's death to spread to the entire Rising Sky Mansion's district and the Green Wave Han Mansion. At that time, they'll naturally know the reason why we didn't go to the wedding." Su Yicheng said proudly. As the leader of the 4th-rate force, the Rising Sky Mansion, he really did not think much of a 5th-rate force like the Green Wave Han Mansion. That's true. At that time, even those guests who have been invited by the Rising Sky Mansion will be able to guess the wedding has been cancelled when they hear about the young Mansion Master's death. Sutsun nodded. "Everyone present, please swear on the lightning penalty oath that nobody is allowed to spread the news that the young Mansion Master is still alive. Just tell the public that the young Mansion Master is dead." Soon after, Su Yicheng's eyes turned cold as he looked at the people present on the scene and said in a deep voice. The people present on the scene were not surprised by Su Yicheng's decision. Currently, the young Mansion Master, Su Jing's condition was clear. He must have cultivated a top Devil Dao cultivation method that saved his life. If the news of Su Jing's survival spread out, it was inevitable that someone would link it to the top Devil Dao cultivation method. At that time, Su Jing would definitely become a target for everyone. Even those quasi-third-rate forces would be interested in a top Devil Dao cultivation method. To the people from the Rising Sky Mansion, this day was undoubtedly an unforgettable day. This was because the entire Rising Sky Mansion's estate was completely shrouded by the sound of thunder. The sound of thunder was so loud that it was deafening. Those who had not entered the Saint stage almost had their eardrums ruptured. Some of them even bled from all 7 orifices and were on the brink of death. After all, so many people had sworn on the lightning penalty oath at the same time. When the 9-9 heavenly tribulation from the oath tribulation overlapped, it was extremely terrifying. As time passed by, the news of the Rising Sky ranking battle had also spread to the Green Wave Han Mansion's district and the Green Wave Han Mansion's estate. What? Su Jing, the young Mansion Master of Rising Sky Mansion, actually died in the Rising Sky ranking battle? When the Supreme Elder of Green Wave Han Mansion, Han Xian, heard this news, horror dawned on his face as a murderous gleam flashed in his eyes. In this case, that girl Han Xuanai has managed to escape this calamity? No. Chapter 1705. Han Xian, what are you trying to do? When Han Shuanai saw Han Xian had killed Qing Nu, who was protecting her with just a lift of his hand, horror dawned on her as she asked in a loud voice, "What am I trying to do?" Han Xian smirked. Han Shuanai, I've always treated you well, but I didn't expect you to be so ungrateful. I only asked you to tell me the origin of the person who killed my grandson, but you kept evading me. Now, I've lost my patience. I'll give you one last chance. Tell me the origin of that person. Otherwise, you can go with Qing Nu. When Han Xian reached the end of his sentence, his eyes were filled with killing intent as he looked at Han Shuanai. Qing Nu. Qing Nu. Han Shuanai squatted next to Qing Nu's body. Her eyes were red as tears streamed down her face. Qing Nu had been by her side since she was young. In her heart, she had long regarded Qing Nu as her family. However, Qing Nu had died in front of her. Moreover, she had died protecting her. Han Shuanai's heart was filled with guilt. When he saw Han Shuanai ignoring him, the sneer on Han Xian's face deepened. Don't think you can stall for time by not replying to me. To tell you the truth, whether it's your father or your Uncle Mu, they're currently discussing with my men about the Rising Sky Mansion's lack of marriage proposal. It's impossible for them to come and save you in such a short time. When Han Xian reached the end of his sentence, his tone became colder and colder. It made one feel as though they had fallen into an ice cave. Qing Nu, Han Shuanai was slightly dazed as she looked at Qing Nu's body. Unknowingly, the words her mysterious master had once told her began to echo in her ears again. Xuanai, our red dust progeny has to train ourselves in the mundane world. Only by experiencing the warmth and coldness of life and seeing through life and death can we completely comprehend the profundity of the red dust progeny's mental cultivation method. Soon after, the words that her master had said to her before she left also echoed in her ears. If you encounter the dragon tribe, all you need to do is channel your true energy into it. As for what happens next, you don't have to worry. At that time, her master was worried that she would encounter dragons when she went to Cloud Continent, so she gave her a small, exquisite sword. Because she did not encounter any dragons when she returned to Cloud Continent, she did not use the exquisite small sword. As time passed, she had forgotten about it. Even Han Shuanai herself did not know the origin of her master. The only thing she knew was that her master claimed to be the successor of the Red Dust lineage, and her master had passed down the Red Dust lineage's mental cultivation method to her. In the beginning, her master did not allow her to cultivate the Red Dust lineage's mental cultivation method, saying that it was not the right time. It was not until her master left that she officially allowed her to cultivate the Red Dust lineage's mental cultivation method. However, even though the Red Dust lineage's mental cultivation method was profound, she could not see anything special about it because she had only cultivated it for a short time. Unknowingly, a small, exquisite sword appeared in Han Shuanai's hand. Although Han Shuanai's movement was small, it was still noticed by Han Xian. No matter what, Han Xian was an eminent saint stage powerhouse. What? Don't tell me you want to fight me? With this little sword that's the length of a pinky? Han Xian sneered. In the next moment, Han Shuanai circulated the true energy in her body and channeled it into the small, exquisite sword in her hand. At this moment, the small, exquisite sword that had been channeled with true energy instantly shattered into countless pieces with a loud crack. However, this was not the most important thing. The most important thing was that at the instant the small, exquisite sword shattered, a silhouette appeared beside Han Shuanai. It was a human-shaped silhouette. Upon closer inspection, one would see that it was a woman. To be more precise, it was a beautiful woman. Xuanai. As soon as the beautiful woman appeared, she looked at Han Shuanai with a faint smile. Then, she saw Qing Nu's corpse on the ground and could not help but frown slightly. It was obvious she knew Qing Nu as well. Master? As soon as Han Shuanai saw the beautiful woman's silhouette, she had already recognized her master. She was stunned for a moment and only regained her senses when the beautiful woman called out to her. She looked at the silhouette in front of her in shock. At this moment, Han Shuanai's heart was filled with confusion. Martial and Dao cultivators at the peak of the innate stage could form silhouettes. It was called the innate illusory body. The innate illusory body could only be used to confuse people. However, the innate illusory body was usually limited by distance. But now, she didn't even know where her master was, but the phantom had appeared in front of her. Furthermore, it had appeared in front of her through that exquisite little sword. I know you have a lot of questions in your heart, but my duplicated avatar can only exist for a limited time. I'll explain it to you after I've dealt with him. The beautiful woman nodded at Han Shuanai before she turned around to look at Han Xian. Although she did not know what had happened earlier, she could tell from the killing intent in Han Xian's eyes that he wanted to kill her disciple. For a moment, a sharp light flashed in her eyes. There were not many disciples in the Seven Absolutes sect to begin with. Due to this reason, everyone in the sect was extremely protective of their disciples. Naturally, she was no exception. Duplicated avatar? Han Xian was shocked when he saw the small, exquisite sword in Han Shuanai's hand shattering and a silhouette appearing. The innate illusory body could be mastered by martial and Tao cultivators at the peak of the innate stage. However, once they had broken through to the mortal shedding stage, the energy in their bodies would transform and they would no longer be able to use it. For this reason, he did not think it was an innate illusory body. When Han Xian heard the beautiful woman say it was a duplicated avatar, he felt the term was familiar. After pondering for a while, he finally recalled it. Tao cultivators whose cultivation base had surpassed the eminent saint stage could master the duplicated avatar divine ability. This divine ability was not very useful in a real battle. Its greatest use was to seal it in a special amulet. When someone channeled their energy into the amulet, the duplicated avatar would be released. When a Tao cultivator reached that level, if they had disciples or descendants, they would usually pass the amulet that contained their duplicated avatar to them for self-defense. The moment Han Xian thought of this, horror dawned on his face. He looked at the beautiful woman's silhouette in shock. Why, you're a Tao cultivator who has surpassed the eminent saint stage? It did not cross his mind that Han Shuanai had such a master. Good heavens! Would it not be easy for a Tao cultivator who had surpassed the eminent saint stage to kill him? You're quite knowledgeable to know about the duplicated avatar. The beautiful woman sneered. All of a sudden, Han Xian seemed to have recalled something. His expression gradually calmed down before he said with a murderous gleam in his eyes, "Humph. So what if you're a Tao cultivator who has surpassed the eminent saint stage? Since you've left your duplicated avatar with Han Shuanai, I'm sure your true body won't be able to make it back in time. Don't tell me a mere duplicated avatar is trying to stop me?" Han Xian sneered when he reached the end of his sentence. The reason the duplicated avatar of a Tao cultivator who had surpassed the eminent saint stage was useless in a real battle was because it was too weak. The strength of a Tao cultivator's duplicated avatar was usually 2 to 3 stages lower than his true body. For example, the strongest duplicated avatar of a Tao cultivator at the divine saint stage who was above the eminent saint stage would only be at the refined saint stage, while the weakest would only be at the pristine saint stage. Only the duplicated avatar of a Tao cultivator at the exemplary saint stage or above would have the strength of an eminent saint stage powerhouse. As for Han Xian, as a mastery eminent saint stage martial cultivator, unless it was a powerful great Tao cultivator at the quintessential saint stage, he would not be threatened by the duplicated avatar. However, there were no quintessential saint stage Tao cultivators in the WCI subterranean. Even the strongest powerhouses in the few quasi-third-rate forces in the WCI subterranean were only at the exemplary saint stage. Above the eminent saint stage was the divine saint stage. Above the divine saint stage was the exemplary saint stage. Above the exemplary saint stage was the quintessential saint stage. Powerful powerhouses at the quintessential saint stage only existed in the upper province of the Tao martial saint land. There were none in the WCI subterranean. At the very least, Han Xian had never heard of any quintessential saint stage powerhouses in the WCI subterranean. A frog at the bottom of a well. The beautiful woman smirked when she heard the disdain in Han Xian's words. She did not seem to make any movements, but the space around Han Xian suddenly trembled as though it was being squeezed. At this moment, Han Xian, who had a disdainful expression on his face, suddenly narrowed his eyes. An expression of disbelief and despair could be seen on his face. At this moment, Han Xian discovered he could not move his body at all. The space around him seemed to have been sealed, and he could not mobilize the true origin in his body as well. At this moment, Han Xian finally realized how terrifying this beautiful woman was. Just a duplicated embodiment was enough to render him powerless. Lord, please spare my life. Lord, please spare my life. At this moment of life and death, Han Xian's arrogance had disappeared and was replaced by fear. As a mastery eminent saint stage martial cultivator, only he knew how many hardships he had to go through to reach this point. At this moment of life and death, the scenes of the past flashed in his mind. Due to this reason, he was terrified. If he died, he would lose everything. His cultivation, his consciousness, everything would vanish into nothingness. For this reason, he no longer cared about his arrogance. There was only one thought in his mind, and that was to survive. Unfortunately, at this moment, was it even possible for him to survive? Humph! The beautiful woman snorted coldly as she clenched her delicate hand into a fist. At this moment, the space around Han Xian began to tremble violently. It was as though a huge rock had fallen into a calm lake, setting off waves of ripples. As the ripples spread out in the air, Han Xian, who was standing in the middle with a despairing expression on his face, was also distorted by the ripples. In the next moment, his body was torn into pieces before it finally turned into nothingness. Apart from the spatial ring, there was nothing left of him at all. Gasp! Chapter 1706. In the past, Han Xuanai only knew her master was very mysterious. Moreover, her master seemed to be very powerful. At the very least, she felt she was more powerful than her father. However, even then, she did not expect her master to be so powerful. With just a mere duplicated incarnation, he was able to kill Han Xian with just a wave of his hand. The entire process was completely one-sided. From the beginning until the end, Han Xian did not even have the strength to fight back. In fact, as the supreme elder of Greenwave Han Mansion, Han Xian was a mastery eminent saint stage powerhouse. Xuanai, if you have any questions, go ahead and ask. Master's duplicating embodiment can only last for another 30 breaths of time at most. At this moment, the beautiful woman's words jolted Han Xuanai back to her senses. Upon hearing this, Han Xuanai jolted and regained her senses. She immediately asked, Master, this duplicating embodiment of yours, what exactly is it? As long as a Tao cultivator makes a breakthrough from the eminent saint stage to the divine saint stage, they'll be able to master the duplicating embodiment divine ability. However, this duplicating embodiment divine ability is able to... In the face of Han Xuanai's question, the beautiful woman patiently explained in simple terms. The duplicating embodiment is 2 to 3 major stages weaker than the original body. After listening to her master's words, Han Xuanai's eyes widened as she looked at the beautiful woman in shock. Master, you're only a duplicating embodiment now, but you can kill Han Xian, who's at the mastery eminent saint stage, with just a wave of your hand. Don't tell me your original body's cultivation base has already entered the quintessential saint stage? Quintessential saint stage. Although Han Xuanai had heard of the quintessential saint stage before, that cultivation base was too elusive to her. It was said that in the WCI subterranean, even the strongest powerhouse and the few quasi-third-rate forces had yet to make a breakthrough to the quintessential saint stage. The beautiful woman smiled faintly. She did not say yes or no. However, Han Xuanai thought the beautiful woman had tacitly agreed to it. She could not help but ask, Master, as far as I know, there's no quintessential saint stage powerhouse in the WCI subterranean. Now, it's time to tell you. The beautiful woman interrupted Han Xuanai and said slowly, I'm from the upper province of the Tao Martial Saint Land. The upper province of the Tao Martial Saint Land. Although Han Xuanai already had some guesses in her heart when she said those words just now, she could not help but feel a wave of shock when she heard her master admit it personally. Master, is your actual body in the upper district now? Han Xuanai took a deep breath, suppressed the restlessness in her heart, and asked, Yes, The beautiful woman nodded and smiled faintly. Xuanai, Master will come to bring you to the upper province in half a year. The cultivation environment in the upper province is much better than the lower province. Go to the upper city. Upon hearing the beautiful woman's words, Han Xuanai's heart skipped a beat. To her, the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land was undoubtedly a mysterious and unpredictable place. She did not find it strange that the cultivation environment there was better than the lower province. After all, the upper province was the place where the true powerhouses were as numerous as the clouds in the Dao Martial Saint Land. In the Debussy subterranean, a mere quasi-third-rate force could dominate the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. In the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, third-rate forces were not allowed. There were even third-rate forces, second-rate forces, and first-rate forces. Master, didn't you say only powerhouses at the eminent saint stage and above can travel between the upper and lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land? With my current strength, I'm afraid I can't go there, right? Han Xuanai asked. If she had a choice, she would, naturally, want to go to the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land with her master. The recent events had made her deeply aware of her own weakness. If she was as strong as her master, would the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion dare to force her to marry him? Silly girl, you're alone. Without a cultivation base at the eminent saint stage or above, naturally, you won't be able to go to the upper province. However, as long as you're at the divine saint stage or above, you'll be able to bring people to the upper province. Naturally, the stronger you are, the more people you'll be able to bring with you. The beautiful woman shook her head and explained patiently. All right, Master, I'll go to the upper province with you in half a year's time. Han Xuanai was excited when she found out she would be able to go to the upper province in half a year's time. After a while, she remembered the three little fellows. Master, I want to bring little gold, little black, and little white with me. Is that all right? Of course. It was obvious the beautiful woman knew about the existence of the three little fellows. When the beautiful woman saw Han Xuanai's eyes darting around as though she had thought of someone, she quickly said, Apart from your brother Ling Tian, I'll allow you to bring the others to the upper province as well. Why? Although Han Xuanai did not know how her master managed to guess her thoughts, she could not help but frown when she heard her master's words. Based on her master's words, it seemed like she had something against her brother Ling Tian. Otherwise, why was she unwilling to bring her brother Ling Tian to the upper province? All right, I don't have much time left. Just remember my words. As for your question, I'll answer you in half a year's time. As soon as the beautiful woman finished speaking, the silhouette gradually disappeared as though it had never appeared. At this moment, only Han Xuanai and Qing Nu's corpse were left in the spacious room. When Han Xuanai saw Qing Nu's corpse again, she could not hide the sadness on her face. However, she knew there was nothing she could do to change the situation. Qing Nu, did you see that? Master has avenged you. Han Xuanai muttered. Unknowingly, 2 streams of tears flowed down her cheeks again. In just a few days, the news of the death of the Greenwave Han Mansion's Supreme Elder, Han Xian, spread throughout the entire Greenwave Han Mansion's estate. It caused those who were originally on Han Xian's side to panic. Although Han Xian had died, nobody was sad at all. This was because he had only himself to blame for trying to kill the eldest miss of Greenwave Han Mansion, Han Xuanai. I can't believe that the Supreme Elder would be so crazy to actually want to kill the eldest miss. It's a good thing that the eldest Miss Master appeared in time. Otherwise, the eldest miss would have already died. That's right. Why didn't I see the Supreme Elder being so heartless before this? However, I wonder where the eldest Miss Master came from. To think that she's able to kill the Supreme Elder, who's at the Mastery Eminent Saint stage. If she's willing to stay in our Greenwave Han Mansion and work for us, even if our Greenwave Han Mansion can't become a 4th-rate force, we'll still be able to suppress the other 5th-rate forces. Similar discussions were spreading in the Greenwave Han Mansion's estate. Unlike Han Xian's death that nobody cared about and was even spurned by others, Qing Nu's death was given the highest standard of burial in the Greenwave Han Mansion. Naturally, Duan Lingtian, who had left the Greenwave Han Mansion, was unaware of the matter that had happened. Currently, Duan Lingtian had already returned to the Windfall Nation in the Southern Ridge Yuan Mansions district. I'm back again. Looking at the capital of Windfall Nation from afar, Duan Lingtian's eyes were a little misty. To the capital of Windfall Nation, he was just a passerby. To him, the capital of Windfall Nation was just a relay station on his long journey. And now, the reason why he returned here was because his family and friends were still here. Currently, Duan Lingtian had used the disguising secret tactic to disguise himself with a new face. The name he used was still Li Feng. However, his current face was no longer the face he used to participate in the Rising Sky ranking battle. Instead, it was a very ordinary face. After entering the capital of Windfall Nation, Duan Lingtian immediately went to the Situ clan. Before he left, he had arranged for his family and friends to stay here. After more than a year, there were not many changes in the Situ clan. However, when Duan Lingtian entered the Situ clan, he did not enter through the front door. He did not even greet anyone. From the beginning until the end, he had entered quietly as though he was an uninvited guest. During this time, Duan Lingtian also noticed many people were watching the Situ clan. However, the most powerful person among these people was only at the peak of the pristine saint stage. For this reason, Duan Lingtian was not worried he would be discovered. Naturally, Duan Lingtian knew the purpose of these people. It was none other than the Devil Seal tablet in his hand. All of Duan Lingtian's acquaintances were in the Situ clan. Soon after, Duan Lingtian arrived at the place whereby Li Hong, Sima Changfeng, and the others stayed. Apart from senior brother, everyone is here? Duan Lingtian noticed Feng Wu Dao, Sima Changfeng, and the others were sitting in a circle in the courtyard of Bai Li Hong's residence. However, their current expressions were somewhat unsightly, and their brows were furrowed. What's going on? Upon seeing this, Duan Lingtian's heart sank. At the same time, Duan Lingtian appeared. He extended his divine consciousness to monitor the situation outside. Feng Wu Dao and the others who were frowning seemed to have encountered a difficult problem. They did not make a sound for a long time. They only regained their senses one by one when Duan Lingtian appeared. Who are you? Feng Wu Dao asked in a deep voice as he looked at Duan Lingtian. Currently, Duan Lingtian had changed his face. Naturally, Feng Wu Dao could not recognize him. Uncle Feng, it's me. Under the watchful eyes of Feng Wu Dao and the others, Duan Lingtian's face underwent a drastic change in an instant. It had returned to his handsome face. This is... Feng Wu Dao and the others were stunned. They had never seen such a disguise before. However, when they saw Duan Lingtian's true appearance, they quickly regained their senses and were pleasantly surprised. When Duan Lingtian left, they did not know when they would be able to see him again. However, they did not expect that after more than a year, Duan Lingtian would return. They should be happy that Duan Lingtian had returned. However, when they thought about Bai Li Hong's current situation, they could not bring themselves to be happy. Uncle Feng, Master, where's my senior brother? When Duan Lingtian saw the worried expressions on Feng Wu Dao and the others' faces, an ominous feeling rose in his heart. Master Bai Li is in the Imperial Palace. Sima Changfeng smiled wryly. The Imperial Palace? Duan Lingtian frowned. Why is senior brother in the Imperial Palace? Isn't he the interim saint inscription master of Situ clan? What the hell is going on? Chapter 1707. Well, this is what happened. Feng Wu Dao sighed and told him everything in detail. After you left, not only did the Windfall Nation's imperial family set their eyes on us, but even the powerhouses sent by the foreign forces had their eyes on us as well. After all, we're the only people they know who's related to you, the person who possesses the Devil Seal tablet. However, after we swore on the lightning penalty oath that we didn't know where you were, they didn't make things difficult for us. Perhaps, in their opinion, if they killed even one of us and the news spread, it would scare you, causing you to hide even more secretly. Feng Wu Dao continued to say. Duan Lingtian nodded. He had long guessed this. This was also the reason he left his family and friends behind when he left. As long as he was not exposed and was not found, his family and friends would not be in trouble. Apart from knowing him and his origin, they did not know where he had gone. Then, What's going on with senior brother? Why is he in the imperial palace? Duan Lingtian's frown deepened. He really could not figure out what the Windfall Nation's imperial family was trying to do. Master Bai Li had broken through to the pristine saint stage some time ago and became a 4-star saint inscription master not long after he broke through. This is undoubtedly a joyous matter to the Situ clan. After all, Master Bai Li is their interim advisor. However, not long after the news spread out, someone from the Windfall Nation's imperial family came and took Master Bai Li away. Sima Changfeng's eyes flashed coldly as he said, at that time, the person from the imperial family was extremely arrogant. After Master Bai Li refused to enter the imperial palace to become the imperial family's exclusive saint inscription master, he actually forcefully took Master Bai Li away. The clan leader of Situ clan and his son repeatedly tried to stop him, but it was to no avail. Just like us, they could only watch as Master Bai Li was taken away. However, the clan leader of Situ clan and his son can't be blamed for this matter. When Sima reached the end of his sentence, he looked at Duan Lingtian and added as though he was afraid Duan Lingtian would vent his anger on the clan leader of Situ clan and his son. Tell me everything that happened back then in full detail, Duan Lingtian said in a deep voice. Then, with Qian Shaoshui and Nangong Yi's indignant narration, Duan Lingtian also understood the ins and outs of the matter. 3 months ago, Bai Li Hong had broken through to the pristine saint stage and became a 4-star saint inscription master. 2 months ago, the people from the Windfall Nation's imperial family came. The leader was a revered elder who was at the peak of the pristine saint stage. After he arrived at the Situ clan, he was extremely arrogant. He ignored Bai Li Hong's objection and ordered his men to capture him. The Situ family patriarch and his son tried to stop him, but they were both injured by him. If it weren't for the fact that you and your father are relatives of the emperor, you would have died without a doubt. This was what the person said to the Situ family patriarch and his son before he took Bai Li Hong away. How arrogant! Duan Lingtian's eyes flashed with a sharp light. His face seemed to be covered with a layer of frost, and the cold air was oppressive. He was merely at the peak of the pristine saint stage. Did he really think he was invincible? I know senior brother's character very well. If he's unwilling, it's useless even if the Windfall Nation's imperial family forces him again and again. It has already been 2 months, but the Windfall Nation's imperial family still hasn't released him? Duan Lingtian asked in a deep voice. The moment his words left his mouth, Duan Lingtian noticed Feng Wu Dao and the others were hesitating to speak. His heart skipped a beat as he asked anxiously, could it be that something has happened to senior brother? A terrifying killing intent immediately surged out of Duan Lingtian's body. When the killing intent spread out, even Feng Wu Dao and the others felt chills running down their spines. At the same time, they could feel Duan Lingtian's fury. Duan Lingtian, according to the news from the Imperial Palace, the Windfall Nation's imperial family is still torturing Master Bai Li to force him to become a 4-star saint inscription master. However, Master Bai Li has yet to agree to it, and it has been dragging on until now. Although Master Bai Li's cultivation base has entered the pristine saint stage, he's still a mortal after all. I heard he can't hold on any longer. Nangongyi said with grief and indignation on his face. Senior brother. The moment Nangongyi's words left his mouth, Duan Lingtian's body suddenly trembled. His eyes turned red as the killing intent on his body became even more intense. He gritted his teeth as he said word by word, Windfall, Wind, Nation, Emperor, Nation. At this moment, Duan Lingtian's fury had reached its peak, and he was on the verge of going berserk. At this moment, Chen Shaoshui looked at Duan Lingtian and said solemnly, Duan Lingtian, although I know it's unbearable to stay calm, I still have to advise you to calm down. Actually, Uncle Feng has already asked sect leader Ziyun of Drift Blaze sect for help regarding this matter. Initially, sect leader Ziyun said the strongest person in the Windfall Nation's imperial family is on par with her in terms of strength. However, who would have thought after you left, a powerhouse at the peak of the refined saint stage came to the capital of Windfall Nation? He came for the Devil Seal tablet in your hands. Then, the imperial family treated him as a guest of honor. Sect leader Ziyun wanted to save Master Bai Li, but she was heavily injured by him. When Qian Shaoshui reached the end of his sentence, his face was filled with rage. The peak of the refined saint stage? Duan Lingtian sneered. Although he had only killed one devil cultivator at the peak of the refined saint stage, that devil cultivator had just broken through to the peak of the refined saint stage. However, he did not rely on any external force when he fought with that devil cultivator. If he used the devil seal tablet, he would be able to kill that devil cultivator in just a blink of an eye. Even if he did not use the devil seal tablet and only used the Jasper celestial sword, he would be able to kill that devil cultivator in just a blow. With his current cultivation base, he could even kill an ordinary eminent saint stage powerhouse if he channeled the Sun True Origin into the Jasper celestial sword. However, Duan Lingtian was still touched when he heard sect leader Ziyun of Drift Blaze sect was injured because of his senior brother. After all, he was not related to sect leader Ziyun at all. She had only helped him because of Tian Wu. After this matter is over, I'll go to the Drift Blaze sect to express my gratitude and visit Tian Wu. With this thought in mind, Duan Lingtian made up his mind. Don't tell anyone about my return, including the clan leader of Situ clan and his son. As for senior brother, he'll definitely return to the Situ clan today. Moreover, the Windfall Nation's imperial family won't dare to touch all of you anymore. Faced with Feng Wu Dao and the others who were looking at him worriedly, Duan Lingtian felt warmth in his heart. The moment his words left his mouth, he disappeared into thin air in front of Feng Wu Dao and the others. Feng Wu Dao and the others who were not prepared for this were stunned. They only regained their senses after a long while. What did Duan Lingtian mean by that last sentence? He'll be able to save Master Bai Li? Nangongyi asked in disbelief. That's impossible. The Windfall Nation's imperial family is already powerful. There are a few refined saint stage powerhouses guarding them. Now that there's another powerhouse at the peak of the refined saint stage from another force, saving Master Bai Li from the Windfall Nation's imperial family is no different from snatching food from a tiger's mouth. Even if Duan Lingtian's cultivation base has improved a lot, it's still impossible for him to be a threat to a refined saint stage powerhouse, right? Chun Shaoshui shook his head. He did not think Duan Lingtian was capable of saving Master Bai Li from the Windfall Nation's imperial family. Perhaps he'll be able to think of another way or look for help from other powerhouses. Nangong Chen chimed in. It was rare for him to speak. No matter what, since he said so, we'll just wait for the news. From the beginning until now, he has never done anything that he's not confident in. It should be no exception this time as well. Although Feng Wu Dao was also shocked and found it hard to believe, the moment he recalled Duan Lingtian's past, he subconsciously felt he should trust Duan Lingtian. Upon hearing Feng Wu Dao's words, the others finally understood. That was right. Duan Lingtian had never disappointed them. Throughout his journey, Duan Lingtian's life was like a heavenly book. Sima Changfeng, in particular, was the person who knew Duan Lingtian's background the best. Once upon a time, Duan Lingtian was just a disciple with another surname from a small clan in a remote corner of the mortal continent. However, in the end, he became a person who stood at the peak of Cloud Continent. Now that he had arrived at the Dao Martial Saint Land, he continued to soar as though nothing could stop him. Due to this reason, Sima Changfeng was also very confident in Duan Lingtian. As for Xiong Quan and Gold Thug, although they could not stay by Duan Lingtian's side like before due to the gap in their strength, they had unconditional trust in their young master and master since they were once by his side. If he said he could save Master Bai Li, he would definitely be able to save him. Regardless of what Feng Wu Dao and the others thought, after Duan Lingtian left the Situ clan's estate, he went straight to the Windfall Nation's imperial palace. The Windfall Nation's imperial palace was also the residence of the Windfall Nation's imperial family. At this moment, Duan Lingtian had used the disguising secret tactic to change his face to the face that was so ordinary that no one would be able to recognize him in the crowd anymore. With his current strength, it was naturally a piece of cake for him to enter the Windfall Nation's imperial palace. Soon after, he found the dungeon in the depths of the palace where Bai Li Hong was locked up and met with him. Senior brother. Although Duan Lingtian was prepared for this, he could not help but tremble when he saw Bai Li Hong, who was covered in wounds and blood. His eyes were bloodshot as he looked at Bai Li Hong. Who's there? Duan Lingtian appeared like a ghost, so the people who were watching by Li Hong did not notice him at all. It was only when he called out by Li Hong's name that the people from the imperial family who were watching by Li Hong snapped out of their daze. Naturally, Duan Lingtian would not show mercy to these people who heard him calling by Li Hong's senior brother. Among these people, there was only one intermediate pristine saint stage martial cultivator. To Duan Lingtian, killing them was as easy as killing a chicken or cutting grass. Soon after, more than 10 people who were watching by Li Hong fell to the ground and stopped breathing. Chapter 1708. After rescuing by Li Hong from the rack, Duan Lingtian noticed something was amiss. With senior brother's current cultivation base at the pristine saint stage, it's impossible for him to pass out from such a small injury. With that thought in mind, Duan Lingtian began to investigate the situation in Bai Li Hong's body. Soon after, he discovered that there was a strange force in Bai Li Hong's body that was firmly suppressing his true origin. This energy was being depleted by the impact of the true origin in Bai Li Hong's body. Once this energy was completely depleted, the true origin in Bai Li Hong's body would regain its freedom. Origin sealing pill? A thought immediately appeared in Duan Lingtian's mind. He thought of a pill that could seal the true origin in a saint stage powerhouse's body. Unless one was forced to take this pill, no one would be willing to take it. It was impossible for one to take it when one was unprepared. This was because this pill was very special. It was so special that one would be able to smell its pungent smell as soon as one got close to it. No matter how many other things were mixed with it, it would not be able to cover up its smell. It was similar to the qi holding powder. As its name suggested, the qi holding powder was a pill that could seal the true qi of powerhouses at the mortal shedding stage and the saint rudiment stage. The origin sealing pill, on the other hand, could seal the true origin of saint stage powerhouses at different cultivation bases according to its grade. Naturally, it could only seal for a period of time. After a period of time, the medicinal effect would completely dissipate. To be more precise, as the medicinal effect was depleted, it would gradually lose its ability to suppress the true origin in the body of the person who took it. No wonder senior brother passed out after being tortured. As it turns out, he took the origin sealing pill. Duan Lingtian, who was enlightened, had a murderous expression on his face. Bai Li Hong, who had taken the origin sealing pill, was no different from an ordinary person. If this torture continued, he would not be able to hold on for long. Soon after, Duan Lingtian's attention returned to the medicinal effect of the origin sealing pill in Bai Li Hong's body. Looking at the medicinal effect of the origin sealing pill, it can only suppress the true origin of a pristine saint stage powerhouse at most. As long as it's the true origin of a refined saint stage powerhouse, it can be removed. Although my son's true origin is only at the pristine saint stage, it's not inferior to the true origin of an ordinary refined saint stage powerhouse. Perhaps it might be able to help senior brother expel the medicinal efficacy of the origin sealing pill. With this in mind, Duan Lingtian began to move. After a while, Duan Lingtian realized that he was right. As the tyrannical sun true essence in his body poured in, the essence sealing pill's medicinal power was like a mouse that had seen a cat, retreating little by little. In just a few seconds, Duan Lingtian had completely removed the effects of the energy-sealing pill from Bai Li Hong's body. Bai Li Hong's true origin was no longer restricted. With Bai Li Hong's true essence no longer restrained, he quickly regained consciousness with his current cultivation. When he saw the unfamiliar and ordinary face in front of him, he couldn't help but be startled. "You are senior apprentice brother." As Duan Lingtian spoke, he changed back to his original face. "Junior brother." When Bai Li Hong saw Duan Lingtian's face, he could not help but exclaim in shock, Why are you here?" Before Duan Lingtian could reply, Bai Li Hong saw the corpses on the ground. He recognized one of them. It was the intermediate pristine saint stage martial cultivator who was usually in charge of entertaining him. He was a revered elder in the Windfall Nation's imperial family. "Junior brother, you killed them?" Bai Li Hong asked with a stunned expression.
Yes.
Duan Lingtian nodded and said, "Senior brother, I'm here to bring you back." "Bring you back?" Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Bai Li Hong regained his senses. He instantly shook his head and said, "Junior brother, I know you're not weak, but there are many people who are much stronger than these people in the Windfall Nation's imperial family. Apart from that, there are also a few refined Saint Stage powerhouses. Apart from that, the Windfall Nation's imperial family is also entertaining a guest. It's said that he's a martial cultivator at the peak of the refined Saint Stage. He even injured sect leader Zi Yun. When Bai Li Hong reached the end of his sentence, a guilty expression could be seen on his face. For this reason, it's best for you to leave before they discover you. If anything happens to you because of me, I won't forgive myself even if I'm lucky enough to survive. Currently, Bai Li Hong was urging Duan Lingtian to leave. He was afraid he would drag Duan Lingtian into this matter. Senior brother, I've already heard about sect leader Zi Yun. Duan Lingtian shook his head as his eyes shone coldly. However, it's precisely because of this that I don't plan to leave after saving you. Senior brother, if you trust me, please do as I say. Junior brother, how can I not trust you? However, what do you mean by the first half of your sentence? What do you mean by, because of this you don't plan to leave after saving me? Bai Li Hong smiled wryly. However, in the end, he became even more confused. However, when Duan Lingtian spoke again, he finally understood what Duan Lingtian meant. He was so shocked that he was stunned. Junior brother, are you really confident? Bai Li Hong gasped. When he looked at Duan Lingtian again, there was a huge change in his gaze. It was as though he had just met Duan Lingtian. Senior brother, don't worry. Even if I lose my life, I won't risk your life, Duan Lingtian said with a smile. Although he was smiling, he could not suppress the killing intent in his eyes. All right, I'll go all out today and go crazy with you. In the end, Bai Li Hong still chose to believe Duan Lingtian. After 15 minutes, an old man walked out of the prison deep in the Windfall Nation's imperial palace. The old man was dressed in blood-stained clothes. It was only natural that the people guarding outside were shocked when they saw him. It's Bai Li Hong. Why did he come out? Although the people outside the prison did not know what had just happened in the prison, they recognized Bai Li Hong and knew the reason why Bai Li Hong was imprisoned here to be tortured. When they saw Bai Li Hong swaggering out of the prison, they, naturally, went up to stop him. However, it did not cross their minds that this old man who had consumed the origin sealing pill would be so lively that he could easily send them flying. He did not seem like someone who had consumed the origin sealing pill at all. What's going on? They were instantly stunned. The origin sealing pill is consumed once every 2 weeks. I remember he had just consumed the origin sealing pill 3 days ago. It's only been 3 days. How's it possible for the origin sealing pill's medicinal effect to disappear? They found it hard to believe. However, faced with an early pristine Saint Stage martial cultivator whose true origin was not sealed, naturally, they did not dare to go up to him. When they saw Bai Li Hong swaggering out of the prison, many people entered the prison. After they entered, they discovered the ground was littered with corpses, including the person in charge of the torture chamber, the intermediate pristine Saint Stage martial cultivator. Sage *T. Lord Xiao has been killed by him. How's this possible? Isn't he an early pristine Saint Stage martial cultivator? How's it possible for him to kill Lord Xiao? Lord Xiao is an intermediate pristine Saint Stage powerhouse. You're asking me, but who am I supposed to ask? I also want to know why Bai Li Hong is still so lively after consuming the origin sealing pill 3 days ago. It doesn't seem like his true origin is sealed at all. We must report this matter to revered Elder Hua as soon as possible. While the prison was in chaos, Bai Li Hong swaggered through the depths of the palace and walked out. Along the way, whenever he encountered any obstacles, he would make a move. In the beginning, those who tried to stop him were martial cultivators who had yet to enter the Saint Stage. He could easily get rid of them. However, with the addition of pristine Saint Stage powerhouses, it began to become difficult for him. Bai Li Hong, His Majesty has sincerely invited you to become the interim advisor of the imperial family, but you've repeatedly rejected him. Today, you even escaped from the prison without permission. Do you really think I won't dare to kill you? As some pristine Saint Stage powerhouses joined in, an old man with an arrogant expression appeared at the right time. He looked down at Bai Li Hong condescendingly as he said in a low voice with a cold expression, This old man was the one who brought Bai Li Hong away from the Situ clan 2 months ago. To be more precise, he was the leader of the group of people from the Windfall Nation's imperial family. At the same time, he was also a martial cultivator at the peak of the pristine saint stage. He had a high position in the Windfall Nation's imperial family. It made sense. There were only a few refined saint stage powerhouses in the Windfall Nation's imperial family. In this world where the strong ruled, as a martial cultivator at the peak of the pristine saint stage, his position in the Windfall Nation's imperial family was only second to those few powerhouses. When the pristine saint stage powerhouses saw this old man, they bowed at him one after another. Revered Elder Hua Jin. Bai Li Hong's expression turned grave when he saw this old man. A hint of dread could be seen in his eyes. When the old man brought him back to the imperial palace, he did not know much about the old man. However, after staying in the imperial palace for some time, he had gained a comprehensive understanding of this old man. Not only was this old man a martial cultivator at the peak of the pristine saint stage, but he was also the strongest person below the refined saint stage in the Windfall Nation's imperial family's imperial family. This meant that the other few powerhouses at the peak of the pristine saint stage in the Windfall Nation's imperial family were no match for him. Bai Li Hong, I was the one who brought people to invite you back that day. However, I only realized today that I've really underestimated you. Although I don't know how you managed to escape, you still dare to swagger through the streets and injure the people from the imperial family. You're really bold. As Hua Jin spoke, he stepped out in the air and arrived near Bai Li Hong in just a few moments. Oh no, Lord Xiao is dead. At this moment, a panicked voice resonated from afar. It came from the direction where Bai Li Hong had come from. What? Upon hearing this, everyone present on the scene was shocked as they looked at Hua Jin in unison. As far as they knew, Hua Qiu was Hua Jin's nephew. In the Windfall Nation's imperial family, only Hua Qiu was addressed as Lord Xiu. Whoosh! At the instant when everyone was looking at Hua Jin seemed to have transformed into a gust of wind as he grabbed the person who reported the news. His eyes were cold as he asked, "What did you say?" Revered Elder Hua. The person was only an ordinary guard in the prison. Naturally, he was so frightened that his body trembled when he was grabbed by Hua Jin. However, when he saw Bai Li Hong from the corner of his eye, he immediately pointed at him. Revered Elder Hua, it's him. He's the one who killed Lord Xiao. Chapter 1709. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. When the prison guard in Hua Jin's hand pointed at Bai Li Hong and said that Bai Li Hong had killed Hua Qiu, everyone, including Hua Jin, shifted their attention to Bai Li Hong in unison. Damn, he killed Hua Qiu? That's impossible. As far as I know, Bai Li Hong is merely an early pristine saint stage martial cultivator. Moreover, he had just made a breakthrough 3 months ago. Put aside the fact that it's impossible for him to break through to the intermediate pristine saint stage now. Even if he did, he's still not a match for Hua Qiu. That's right. Hua Qiu had already broken through to the intermediate pristine saint stage a few years ago. He's not far away from breaking through to the mastery pristine saint stage. Whether all of you believe it or not, I don't believe it. It doesn't make sense. Put aside the fact that it's impossible for Bai Li Hong to have the strength to kill Hua Qiu. Even if he does, he has to consume the origin sealing pill every once in a while. It's impossible for him to mobilize the true origin in his body, let alone kill Hua Qiu. Origin sealing pill? If he really consumed the origin sealing pill, do you think he'll be able to swagger his way here? The group of pristine saint stage powerhouses present on the scene whispered among themselves. Similar to Hua Qiu, they were ordinary revered elders in the Windfall Nation's imperial family. Naturally, they did not dare to offend Hua Qiu even though they were ordinary revered elders. This was because Hua Qiu was Hua Jin's nephew. Although there were a few refined saint stage powerhouses in the Windfall Nation's imperial family, they were usually aloof from worldly affairs. Due to this reason, most of the matters were handled by the other revered elders. As the strongest person below the refined saint stage in Windfall Nation, Hua Jin was, naturally, the leader of the other revered elders. After all, in this world where strength was everything, The strongest person had the right to speak. Hua Jin looked at Bai Li Hong. His eyes were as cold as a blade. However, he only glanced at Bai Li Hong before looking at the prison guard in his hand again. He said in a deep voice, "What's going on? Tell me everything you know, in full detail." When the prison guard heard this, he immediately took a deep breath and told them everything he knew in a trembling voice. When they heard Bai Li Hong had just consumed the origin sealing pill 3 days ago, let alone the other revered elders of the Windfall Nation's imperial family, even Hua Jin's expression changed drastically. Bai Li Hong, who had taken the vitality sealing pill 3 days ago, appeared in front of them full of energy today. Judging from Bai Li Hong's previous moves, how did he look like a person whose chi was sealed by the medicinal power of the vitality sealing pill? Refined Saint Stage Powerhouse. At this moment, Hua Jin also realized there must be someone who had helped Bai Li Hong to remove the origin sealing pill's medicinal effect from his body. The person who could remove the origin sealing pill's medicinal effect from Bai Li Hong's body must be someone at the refined saint stage or above. He couldn't think of a second possibility. Although the pill that Bai Li Hong consumed was the lowest grade origin sealing pill, it could even seal the true origin of a peak pristine saint stage powerhouse, let alone an early pristine saint stage martial cultivator like Bai Li Hong. An early pristine saint stage martial cultivator would need at least 20 days to consume the lowest grade origin sealing pill before the medicinal effect would gradually disappear. Although an intermediate pristine saint stage martial cultivator would not need such a long time, it would still take half a month. Due to this reason, Hua Jin did not think Bai Li Hong would be able to break through to the intermediate pristine saint stage. Even if Bai Li Hong had really broken through to the intermediate pristine saint stage, it was impossible for him to be completely fine since he had just consumed the origin sealing pill 3 days ago. Moreover, other than the origin sealing pill's medicinal effect in Bai Li Hong's body being removed, his nephew, Hua Qiu, was also dead. If a refined saint stage powerhouse really made a move to remove the origin sealing pill's medicinal effect in Bai Li Hong's body, it would be logical for him to kill his nephew. Due to this reason, the moment Hua Jin thought of this, he looked around frantically with a hint of dread on his face. What a joke. That was a refined saint stage powerhouse. If he wanted to kill him, it would be no different from killing an ant. At this moment, a detail that Hua Jin did not think about seriously before began to appear in his mind. For example, why did Bai Li Hong dare to appear so boldly in front of everyone? If it was him, if it was not for the fact that he had someone backing him up, he would have left this troublesome place immediately after he was released. How would he dare to appear so boldly in front of everyone? Was he not seeking his own death? The moment Hua Jin thought about this, he gasped inwardly as cold sweat broke out on his back. At this moment, he had even forgotten that his nephew was killed. Currently, he did not even have the time to care about himself, let alone the life and death of others. When he thought about how there might be a refined saint stage powerhouse watching him in the dark, he could not help but panic. If Hua Jin could think of this after listening to the prison guard's words, how could the other revered elders not think of this as well? Following Hua Jin's actions, they began to look around with a panicked expression on their faces. Refined saint stage powerhouse. It would be easy for a powerhouse at that level to kill Hua Jin, let alone them who were not even as strong as Hua Jin. Do you think that refined saint stage powerhouse is Ziyun, the sect leader of Driftblaze sect? In the end, a revered elder from the Windfall Nation's imperial family broke the silence by asking in a low voice. That's impossible, right? Not long ago, sect leader Ziyun was severely injured by Master Yun. I'm afraid she hasn't even recovered yet. How is it possible for her to come to our Windfall Nation's imperial family again? Moreover, young Master Yun has already said that he doesn't mind killing her if she dares to come again. That's right. Unless she's not afraid of death, she won't dare to come again. However, if it's not sect leader Ziyun, who's the one who removed the origin sealing pill's medicinal effect in Bai Li Hong's body, in our Windfall Nation, there are only a handful of refined saint stage powerhouses. The only one who's related to him is sect leader Ziyun. I don't get it as well. The group of revered elders from the Windfall Nation's imperial family whispered among themselves. Although their voices were not loud, Bai Li Hong still heard everything. Bai Li Hong's heart skipped a beat. At this moment, He finally recalled that the origin-sealing pill's medicinal effect in his body had been removed. Although he had only heard about the origin-sealing pill, he knew it was difficult to remove it. Moreover, although a sixth-rate force like the Windfall Nation's imperial family might have a higher-grade origin-sealing pill, the origin-sealing pill that was used on him would not be of a higher grade. This was because the lowest-grade origin-sealing pill could seal the true origin in his body. However, even the lowest-grade origin-sealing pill would require a powerhouse at the refined saint stage to remove it. Don't tell me Junior Brother has a helper behind him? Bai Lihong thought to himself when he thought of this. Although he was surprised that Duan Lingtian was able to kill an intermediate pristine saint stage martial cultivator, he was not too shocked since he knew his junior brother's innate talent very well. Perhaps it would be difficult for ordinary people to have such an improvement after more than a year. However, his junior brother's strength could not be judged by common sense. However, he did not even dare to think that Duan Lingtian had broken through to the refined saint stage. Due to this reason, he felt Duan Lingtian had brought a helper with him this time. In fact, when his junior brother asked him to strut out, he already had a guess in his heart. Now that he was reminded by the group of revered elders from the Windfall Nation's imperial family, he immediately confirmed his guess. I wonder if the helper behind junior brother can compare to that, Master Yun. Bai Lihong thought to himself. Master Yun was the powerhouse at the peak of the refined saint stage, whom the Windfall Nation's imperial family treated as an honored guest. Recently, he had been staying in the Windfall Nation's imperial family, treating the imperial family as his home. Naturally, Bai Lihong also knew the reason he was staying in the Windfall Nation. He was waiting for his junior brother to appear so he could snatch the Devil Seal tablet from his junior brother's hands. Whoosh! All of a sudden, the sound of a sword whistling in the air rang in the air and woke everyone up, including Bai Lihong. As the crowd looked over, they discovered a revered elder of the Windfall Nation's imperial family was walking away at some point in time. However, at this moment, his body suddenly came to a halt because there was a bloody hole between his brows. Gasp, 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 gasp. At this moment, the sound of people sucking in cold breaths rang in the air. How fast? Among the people present on the scene, only Hua Jin could vaguely see the golden sword ray that appeared briefly. The speed of the sword ray was so fast that he could not help but feel chills running up his spine. This was because it had already surpassed the pristine saint stage, a refined saint stage powerhouse. At this moment, Hua Jin's guess was confirmed. At the same time, the other revered elders from the Windfall Nation's imperial family looked at each other, but none of them dared to make a move. It was as though their feet were filled with lead. With the lesson learned from the previous incident, naturally, they did not want to make the same mistake again. They did not want the powerhouse hiding in the dark to kill them as well. Master, I wonder what's your relationship with Bai Lihong? Hua Jin took a deep breath and cupped his hands at the air. His tone was filled with humility. Although he was asking a question, his posture was very humble. So, you're the one who brought Bai Lihong into this *T Windfall Nation's imperial palace? The moment Hua Jin's words left his mouth, a slightly hoarse voice resonated from all directions and clearly entered Hua Jin and the others' ears. It caused horror to dawn on Hua Jin's face. The other revered elders from the Windfall Nation's imperial family could not help but glance at Hua Jin with a hint of pity in their eyes. Based on the powerhouse's tone, it was obvious he was displeased with Hua Jin's actions. Master, Hua Jin is only following the orders of our Windfall Nation's emperor. Hua Jin could hear the displeasure in the powerhouse's voice and quickly explained. At this moment, the only thing he could do was to stall for time and wait for the few refined, saint stage powerhouses from the Windfall Nation's imperial family to arrive. Naturally, there was also Master Yun who was powerful and had an extraordinary background. Is that important? The voice resonated from all directions again. The hoarse voice was filled with indifference. It was precisely these indifferent words that caused horror to dawn on Hua Jin's face. The true origin in his body surged out as though he was facing a great enemy. Chapter 17:10. My lord, although true origin was surging out of his body, Hua Jin did not feel safe at all. His voice was trembling as he spoke to the air. His body was trembling uncontrollably as well. He was terrified. When one's cultivation base had reached his level, it was extremely difficult for one to make a breakthrough. The gap between one's strength was huge as well. Even if one was at the same stage, the gap between one's strength was like a chasm, let alone the gap between two major stages. Although there was only a fine line between the peak of the pristine saint stage and the early refined saint stage, the gap between their strength was like heaven and earth. Due to this reason, Huajin was extremely anxious when he saw the refined saint stage powerhouse hiding in the dark, especially since the powerhouse seemed to be dissatisfied with his previous actions. Hermph! A cold snort sounded and interrupted Huajin's words rudely. In the next instant, the hoarse voice resonated again from all directions. I can't tolerate sand in my eyes. This Bai Li Hong is Duan Lingtian's senior brother. If he's tortured to death by all of you, Duan Lingtian will definitely raise his guard and hide even deeper. It might even be impossible for him to return to the capital of Windfall Nation. The Devil Seal Tablet is something that I must obtain no matter what. Your Windfall Nation's imperial family's actions have angered me. When the hoarse voice reached this part of the sentence, the group of people, including Huajin, finally understood everything. Only now did they realize the Saint Stage powerhouse hiding in the dark was not Bai Li Hong's friend. Instead, he was a powerhouse who wanted to obtain the Devil Seal Tablet. The reason he saved Bai Li Hong was because Bai Li Hong was related to Duan Lingtian, and Duan Lingtian was the person who had disappeared with the Devil Seal Tablet. My lord, your strength is profound. You'll definitely be able to obtain the Devil Seal Tablet in the future. Huajin quickly flattered him, hoping the powerhouse hiding in the dark would shift his attention elsewhere. It would be fine as long as he did not stare at him. Unfortunately, he was destined to be dreaming. If the person hiding in the dark was really someone like he had said, perhaps he would not be so calculative with Huajin at this moment. However, the person hiding in the dark was Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian was Bai Li Hong's junior brother. At the same time, he also regarded the clan leader of Situ clan and his son as his friends. When he found out that Bai Li Hong was taken away by Huajin and that the clan leader of Situ clan and his son were injured by Huajin, he had already sentenced Huajin to death in his heart. Therefore, no matter how much Huajin flattered him, it was useless. Of course, Huajin was unaware of all this. If he had known, he wouldn't have admitted defeat and flattered him. Instead, he would have fled as far as he could, even if he didn't think that he could escape from Duan Lingtian, who was hiding in the dark, because that was his last life-saving straw. Even if that straw was not very sturdy, he had no other choice. You, Huajin, are just the beginning. Duan Lingtian pretended to be hoarse as his voice reverberated in the air again. The moment his words left his mouth, the hearts of the people present on the scene jolted. Horror dawned on Huajin's face as the true origin on the surface of his body spread out in an attempt to consolidate his territory. Unfortunately, before he could consolidate his territory, a sword ray that was even faster than the previous golden sword ray appeared out of thin air. Whoosh! Before he could react, the sword ray pierced through the space between his brows, leaving behind a terrifying bloody hole. Under the watchful eyes of the others, Huajin fell. When he fell, a horrified expression was still plastered on his face. Huajin, the strongest person below the refined saint stage in the Windfall Nation's imperial family, a powerhouse at the peak of the pristine saint stage, had died in just a blink of an eye. At this moment, although the revered elders of the Windfall Nation's imperial family who were present on the scene were not sad about Huajin's death, they could not help but grieve for him. Even Huajin, who was more powerful than them, had died in just a blink of an eye. Their strength was nothing in the eyes of that powerhouse. Run. If we don't run, we'll die. While many people were still in shock from Huajin's death, someone cried out. His voice was filled with terror and despair. The moment this voice rang in the air, despair spread and shrouded everyone's hearts. In the next instant, nobody knew who took the lead, but the group of revered elders of the Windfall Nation's imperial family began to flee in all directions. Naturally, not all of them fled. Some of the revered elders remained on the spot. Their legs seemed to be filled with lead, and they could not move at all. These people were more rational people. After witnessing the strength of the powerhouse who was hiding in the dark, they did not dare to think about fleeing at all since they knew it was impossible for them to do so. However, when they saw the powerhouse who was hiding in the dark did not make a move even though many of them had fled, their minds instantly became active. Soon after, they joined the ranks of those who fled. Soon after, all of the revered elders of the Windfall Nation's imperial family had fled. Only a group of Imperial Palace's imperial guards with low cultivation bases remained. They looked at each other and did not make a move for a long time. It was only when someone took the lead that they gradually dispersed. Nobody knew when, but Bai Li Hong was the only one left. To be more precise, there were only 2 people left. Apart from Bai Li Hong, there was also Duan Lingtian who was hiding in the dark. Senior brother, continue to walk out. Duan Lingtian sent a voice transmission to Bai Li Hong in a timely manner. If Duan Lingtian intended to stop the group of people who had fled earlier, with his current strength, none of them would have been able to escape. The reason they were able to escape was because Duan Lingtian did not intend to make a fuss about it. To him, those people were merely bait. He had let them go so he could catch a bigger fish.
Yes.
It was only when he heard Duan Lingtian's voice transmission that Bai Li Hong finally snapped back to his senses. The scene of Hua Jin being killed earlier had also shocked him. 2 months ago, Hua Jian had brought his men to the Situ clan to kidnap him. How domineering was he? Relying on his cultivation base, he was fearless. When he faced Bai Li Hong, he even looked at him condescendingly. However, today, such a person was killed in just a blink of an eye. Where did junior brother find such a helper? Bai Li Hong was shocked. He did not expect his junior brother to know a refined Saint Stage powerhouse. Although the refined Saint Stage powerhouse had said that he had saved him because he was afraid his junior brother would be scared out of his wits if he died, it was just a perfunctory remark. But he knew that it was only perfunctory words. If that person really wanted his junior brother's Devil Seal tablet, then that person would have made a move to seize it long ago. Why would that person help his junior brother and save him? After witnessing the strength of that powerhouse, Bai Li Hong's confidence was boosted. He continued to walk toward the entrance of the Imperial Palace without any fear. Fortunately, Bai Li Hong still did not know his junior brother was the powerhouse who killed Hua Jin. Otherwise, who knew how frightened he would be? Although Bai Li Hong knew Duan Lingtian's innate talent was monstrous, it did not cross his mind that Duan Lingtian's current strength was comparable to a refined Saint Stage powerhouse. It did not cross his mind that Duan Lingtian was not afraid of the few refined Saint Stage powerhouses in the Windfall Nation's imperial family, and the powerhouse at the peak of the refined Saint Stage who had an extraordinary origin. While Bai Li Hong continued to walk out, the news of Hua Jin's death finally reached the ears of the Windfall Nation's emperor. The Windfall Nation's emperor was a middle-aged man who wore a dragon robe. There was an awe-inspiring look on his face. Hua Jin is dead? The moment the Windfall Nation's emperor, Zhu Yuan, heard the news of Hua Jin's death, his expression turned grave immediately. Cold, killing intent could be seen in his eyes as he asked in a deep voice, "Who is it?" Hua Jin was not only the revered elder of the Windfall Nation's imperial family, but he was also Zhu Yuan's right-hand man. There were many things that he had to rely on Hua Jin to do. Killing Hua Jin was no different from severing his right-hand man. How could he not be enraged? At the same time, the dragon robe on Zhu Yuan's body fluttered in the wind. The divine dragons embroidered on it seemed to have come alive at this moment as they bared their fangs and brandished their claws majestically. At the same time, the aura of a powerhouse swept out from Zhu Yuan's body, causing the revered elder who came to report the news to take a few steps back. This revered elder was an early pristine Saint Stage martial cultivator, but he was forced to take a few steps back by Zhu Yuan's aura. One could just imagine Zhu Yuan's strength. The Windfall Nation was a sixth-rate force in the Dao martial saintland. It was a sixth-rate saint nation. A country like this was completely different from some countries on the mortal continent. Those who could become the emperor were all outstanding people in the imperial family without exception. As the Windfall Nation's emperor, Zhu Yuan was one of the few refined Saint Stage powerhouses in the Windfall Nation's imperial family. Not only that, but he was also the youngest refined Saint Stage powerhouse in the Windfall Nation's imperial family. It was only natural that an ordinary early pristine Saint Stage martial cultivator would not be able to withstand his aura. It's an unknown powerhouse who killed revered Elder Hua without even showing himself. The imperial family's revered elder did not dare to hesitate and quickly answered Zhu Yuan's question. Killed Hua Jin without even showing himself? Refined Saint Stage powerhouse? Upon hearing this, Zhu Yuan's expression turned even graver. He's at least at the refined Saint Stage. Moreover, it seems like he's not an ordinary refined Saint Stage powerhouse. Under the circumstances where he didn't show himself, he killed revered Elder Hua with just one strike. The imperial family's revered elder began to sweat again when he recalled the scene earlier. What? The moment these words left his mouth, Zhu Yuan's expression changed immediately. He was confident he could kill Hua Jin without even showing himself. However, he did not have the strength to kill Hua Jin with just one strike when he did not show himself and Hua Jin was already prepared. Such strength. He's at least at the intermediate refined Saint Stage or above. The moment Zhu Yuan thought of this, his heart jolted. In fact, even the Windfall Nation's imperial family only had one intermediate refined Saint Stage powerhouse. He was also the strongest powerhouse in the Windfall Nation's imperial family. What's so special about that person's attack? Could it be Ziyun, the sect leader of Drift Blaze sect? Zhu Yuan asked in a deep voice. Ziyun, the sect leader of Drift Blaze sect, was also the only person in Windfall Nation who was on par with the strongest powerhouse in the Windfall Nation's imperial family. I don't think it's sect leader Ziyun. Based on that person's attack, he should be a sword cultivator. Sword cultivator?
Yes.
Did that person say anything? Chapter 17:11. The big fish had finally taken the bait. Duan Lingtian, who was hiding in the dark, looked at the two people who were blocking Bai Li Hong's path calmly. One of the two people was wearing a dragon robe. His identity was obvious. He was none other than the Windfall Nation's emperor, Zhu Yuan. Although this was also Duan Lingtian's first time meeting Zhu Yuan, he could guess his identity based on his attire. After all, the dragon robe was the emperor's exclusive attire. Although this was his first time meeting Zhu Yuan, it did not mean Duan Lingtian did not know him. Not only that, when he was still a revered elder of Situ clan, he had heard of Zhu Yuan, the Windfall Nation's emperor, more than once. He knew he was one of the most powerful people in the Windfall Nation's imperial family, a refined Saint Stage powerhouse. The other person was a middle-aged man with a curly beard. Coupled with his messy long hair, he looked like a human-shaped lion from afar. Since he's standing next to Zhu Yuan, this person must be one of the refined Saint Stage powerhouses in the Windfall Nation's imperial family. Duan Lingtian speculated inwardly. While Duan Lingtian was speculating, Zhu Yuan and the other person who blocked Bai Li Hong's path did not make things difficult for him. Instead, they looked around as though they were looking for something. After a while, Zhu Yuan opened his mouth and said, "Friend, I'm the Windfall Nation's emperor, Zhu Yuan. There seems to be some misunderstanding between you and the Windfall Nation's imperial family. I wonder if you can come out for a chat?" Zhu Yuan's tone was very polite. He did not seem like the emperor of a sixth-rate saint nation at all. The Windfall Nation's emperor? At the same time, when Bai Li Hong heard Zhu Yuan's self-introduction and saw the dragon robe he was wearing, he immediately regained his senses. The person who was blocking his path was actually the Windfall Nation's emperor, Zhu Yuan. However, he was only slightly surprised when he found out the other person was the Windfall Nation's emperor. He did not feel anything else. So what if he was the Windfall Nation's emperor? Behind him was a powerhouse who was not afraid of Master Yun, who was treated as a VIP by the Windfall Nation's imperial family. That was his junior brother's friend. Let's talk about it when everyone's here. Duan Lingtian, who was hiding in the dark, said faintly. His voice was still pretending to be hoarse, and no one could associate this voice with his real self. The voices came from all directions and entered the Zhu Yuan duo's ears, causing them to involuntarily frown. Wait until everyone is here? What did he mean? Soon after, a middle-aged man and an old man appeared. Zhu Yuan and the curly-bearded man beside him finally reacted and understood what the hidden powerhouse meant. Master Yun. Uncle. After the middle-aged man and the old man appeared, Zhu Yuan and the curly-bearded man beside him hurriedly bowed. The first person they bowed to was not the old man, but the middle-aged man. After bowing to the middle-aged man, they bowed to the old man. Although the old man was an elder of the Zhu Yuan duo, he did not dare to overstep his boundaries in front of the middle-aged man. Therefore, when the old man saw the two of them greet the middle-aged man first, not only was the old man not angry, he even felt that it was normal. In fact, this person was a powerhouse from a quasi-third-rate force. Although his strength was nothing in a quasi-third-rate force, he was almost invincible in Windfall Nation, the peak of the refined saint stage. In the history of Windfall Nation, perhaps there were powerhouses who had broken through to this stage, but there was almost no one who stayed in Windfall Nation after breaking through to this stage. Yes, the middle-aged man merely responded indifferently when Zhu Yuan and the curly-bearded man bowed to him. On the other hand, the old man responded with a smile. However, when the old man's gaze landed on Bai Li Hong, the smile on his face disappeared and was replaced with a grave expression. "You're Bai Li Hong?" When Bai Li Hong heard Zhu Yuan addressing the old man as uncle, he could already guess his identity. In the Windfall Nation's imperial family, there was only one person who was addressed as uncle by the Windfall Nation's emperor. He was none other than Zhu Mu Ci, the strongest powerhouse in the Windfall Nation's imperial family whose cultivation base was at the intermediate refined saint stage. Faced with Zhu Mu Ci's condescending question, Bai Li Hong frowned but did not reply. Although Zhu Mu Ci was very strong and could easily kill him, Bai Li Hong was not someone who was afraid of death. Naturally, he would not bow before Zhu Mu Ci. Moreover, he had a backer, so there was no need for him to be afraid of Zhu Mu Ci. Zhu Mu Ci's expression turned grave when he saw Bai Li Hong merely glanced at him indifferently after hearing his words before ignoring him. As the strongest powerhouse in Windfall Nation and the imperial uncle of the Windfall Nation's emperor, put aside the fact that he had a transcendent position in the Windfall Nation's imperial family, even outside the Windfall Nation's people who knew about his identity were both respectful and fearful of him. However, today, he was ignored by an early pristine saint stage martial cultivator. This was undoubtedly a form of humiliation to him. "How dare you?" When Zhu Mu Ci's expression turned grave, two loud voices resonated in unison. It was none other than the Windfall Nation's emperor, Zhu Yuan, and the curly-bearded man next to him who were glaring at Bai Li Hong. Their words were filled with rage. In the Windfall Nation's imperial family, not only was Zhu Mu Ci the strongest powerhouse, but he was also the pillar of support for the Windfall Nation's imperial family. In Zhu Yuan and the curly-bearded man's eyes, Zhu Mu Ci was not only the guardian of the Windfall Nation's imperial family, but he was also their senior. A large part of the reason why they could achieve their current cultivation was because of Zhu Mu Ci's unstinting guidance. A teacher was like a father. In their hearts, Zhu Mu Ci had long been their father. However, someone actually dared to ignore their father. Moreover, this person was only an early pristine saint stage martial cultivator. How could they not be furious? "Zhu Lai, kill him." Zhu Mu Ci's eyes gleamed sharply as he shouted coldly. "Yes, Imperial Uncle." The person whom Zhu Mu Ci addressed as Zhu Lai was the curly-bearded man next to Zhu Yuan. When he heard Zhu Mu Ci's words, he immediately flew out and dove toward Bai Li Hong. He was like a goshawk that saw Bai Li Hong as its prey. No matter what, Zhu Lai was an early refined saint stage martial cultivator. The moment he made his move, Bai Li Hong felt pressured, causing him to feel a little suffocated. Even his waist, which was as straight as the shaft of a spear, was gradually bending down. "Humph!" At this moment, a cold snort resonated in the air as a golden sword ray flashed across the sky. It appeared before everyone's eyes in just a blink of an eye before disappearing in just a blink of an eye. In just a blink of an eye, Zhu Lai, who was originally charging toward Bai Li Hong, retreated in a wretched manner. What a fast sword! After retreating, Zhu Lai only felt that his back was full of cold sweat. Just now, that golden sword light had almost brushed past his head. Fortunately, he did not unleash his full strength when he attacked Bai Li Hong earlier, so he managed to stop himself in time. If he had unleashed his full strength, he would not have been able to stop himself due to the inertia. If that was the case, he would have definitely died. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. At the same time, whether it was Zhu Lai, Zhu Yuan, Zhu Mu Ci, or Master Yun, all four of them were looking at Bai Li Hong in unison. Naturally, they were not looking at Bai Li Hong. Instead, they were looking at a young man who appeared after the golden sword ray appeared. The young man had an ordinary appearance. He was the kind of person who would not stand out in a crowd. However, other than Master Yun, who claimed to be from a quasi-third-rate force who was looking at the young man with disdain, Zhu Mu Ci and the other two had a solemn expression on their faces. This was because they knew this ordinary-looking young man's cultivation base was at the intermediate refined saint stage or above. In the Windfall Nation's imperial family, only Zhu Mu Ci was a match for someone whose cultivation base was at the intermediate refined saint stage or above. However, faced with this expressionless young man, Zhu Mu Ci did not feel confident at all. Even he could clearly feel the threat contained in the golden sword light that flashed by just now. When one's cultivation base reached his level, one would have a particularly sharp sense of smell in many aspects. This ordinary-looking young man before him gave him a dangerous feeling. Humph! A refined saint stage martial cultivator from the Windfall Nation's imperial family actually dares to kill a pristine saint stage martial cultivator? Aren't you afraid of being laughed at by others? Finally, the young man Duan Lingtian disguised as spoke. His voice was still hoarse. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Zhu Lai's expression turned grave. That's only if you can leave the palace alive and spread the news. Zhu Mu Ci sneered. You're that intermediate refined saint stage martial cultivator from the Windfall Nation's imperial family? Duan Lingtian asked as he glanced at Zhu Mu Ci indifferently. So what if I am? Zhu Mu Ci continued to sneer. If it was said that he was still wary of Duan Lingtian in the beginning, after he obtained the support of the middle-aged man next to him, he no longer treated Duan Lingtian as a threat. Perhaps this young man was stronger than him, but he could not be compared to the person next to him at all. The person next to him was a powerhouse at the peak of the refined saint stage. Moreover, the person next to him had even transmitted his voice to him earlier, saying he was confident he could deal with this young man. For this reason, he was not worried at all. It seems like you've taken him as your backer? Earlier, he had seen the hint of fear in Zhu Mu Ci's eyes when he looked at him. That was the behavior of a weakling. At the very least, Zhu Mu Ci had admitted he was no match for him. However, Zhu Mu Ci had acted out of character. Naturally, Duan Lingtian could guess why Zhu Mu Ci acted out of character. It was most likely related to the middle-aged man next to him. Moreover, the Windfall Nation's emperor, Zhu Yuan, and Zhu Lai had addressed this middle-aged man as Master Yun. The middle-aged man was none other than the martial cultivator at the peak of the refined saint stage. He was also the guest of honor of the Windfall Nation's imperial family and the person who severely injured Ziyun, the sect leader of Drift Blaze sect. Chapter 1712. Ziyun was Tian Wu's master. She was also his senior. The reason Ziyun was heavily injured was because she had helped Duan Lingtian's senior brother out of the predicament for Tian Wu. Due to this reason, Duan Lingtian owed Ziyun a favor. So what if I am? Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Zhu Mu Ci smirked. He looked as though he was certain he had Duan Lingtian under his control. Although you're not related to Duan Lingtian, you shouldn't have coveted the Devil Seal Tablet. In fact, the Devil Seal Tablet is something that our Master Yun is determined to obtain. In terms of strength, Master Yun is a powerhouse at the peak of the refined saint stage. You're no match for him at all. In terms of the force behind him, Master Yun is from the quasi-third-rate force, the Azure Cloud Mansion. In the Debussy Subterranean, a quasi-third-rate force is the top first-rate force. It's not something the force behind you can compare to. When Zhu Mu Ci reached the end of his sentence, his eyes were filled with disdain as he looked at Duan Lingtian. It's important to know one's own strength. You might be strong, but you're still lacking if you want to get your hands on the Devil Seal Tablet. Zhu Mu Ci had heard about Duan Lingtian's objective before he came here. Naturally, what he knew was made up by Duan Lingtian. A quasi-third-rate force, the Azure Cloud Mansion? Upon hearing Zhu Mu Ci's words, Duan Lingtian could not help but be stunned. Then, he began to size up the middle-aged man, Master Yun, next to Zhu Mu Si. You're from a quasi-third-rate force? Humph. Faced with Duan Lingtian's question, the middle-aged man raised his head proudly and looked down at Duan Lingtian condescendingly. I'm Yun Kuan, a disciple of the Azure Cloud Mansion. Yun Kuan's tone was filled with arrogance. This was his pride as a disciple of a quasi-third-rate force, the Azure Cloud Mansion. If it was the Azure Cloud Mansion in the past, although it was also a quasi-third-rate force, its deterrence in the WCI subterranean was limited. After all, there was still a certain distance between quasi-third-rate forces. In the past, the Azure Cloud Mansion could only be considered as the weakest among quasi-third-rate forces. However, ever since the Azure Cloud Mansion had a new mansion master, it began to prosper. Currently, it had even become a giant in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. At this moment, Yun Kuan, naturally, did not expect the young man standing in front of him was none other than the young mansion master of their Azure Cloud Mansion. He was also the only son of Duan Rufeng, the mansion master who was revered by everyone in the Azure Cloud Mansion. It was all because of Duan Rufeng that the Azure Cloud Mansion was able to achieve its current status in the WCI subterranean. If Yun Kuan knew Duan Lingtian's true identity, he would have been scared out of his wits. In fact, in the eyes of the Azure Cloud Mansion's disciples, Duan Rufeng was a godlike existence. He was supreme and inviolable. However, Yun Kuan was unaware of Duan Lingtian's identity. Similarly, Duan Lingtian was unaware of his own identity as well. Although he knew his father was in the Dao Martial Saint Land and had recruited some powerhouses, it did not cross his mind that his father was the leader of a quasi-third-rate force in the Dao Martial Saint Land. Moreover, his father was the mansion master of the Azure Cloud Mansion that had risen to prominence in recent years. In the WCI subterranean, the only quasi-third-rate force that could contend with the Azure Cloud Mansion was the Mountain Shade Black Market. Even the quasi-third-rate force, the Mystical Sky Mansion, that Duan Lingtian planned to join, was slightly weaker in comparison. Naturally, the difference was not that big. Perhaps, the Azure Cloud Mansion could annihilate the Mystical Sky Mansion if they fought. However, in this battle, the Azure Cloud Mansion would definitely lose more than 80% of their strength. Due to this reason, even the Azure Cloud Mansion would not rashly provoke the Mystical Sky Mansion. If they really fought, the result would be a loss of 800 of their own men. Even if they managed to annihilate the Mystical Sky Mansion, the Azure Cloud Mansion, whose strength was greatly reduced, would still fall. As the saying went, the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Put aside the other quasi-third-rate forces, as the archenemy of the Azure Cloud Mansion, the Mountain Shade Black Market would definitely not let go of any opportunity to strike the Azure Cloud Mansion when it was down. Naturally, it was a little far-fetched to talk about this now. Don't tell me you think you're the only disciple from a quasi-third-rate force? Duan Lingtian glanced at Yun Kuan indifferently and smirked. The moment Duan Lingtian's words left his mouth, not only was Yun Kuan stunned, but even Zhu Mu Si, Zhu Yuan, and Zhu Lai were stunned as well. Could it be that this ordinary-looking young man with extraordinary strength was also a disciple from a quasi-third-rate force? You're a disciple from a quasi-third-rate force as well? Yun Kuan raised an eyebrow and asked nonchalantly. Although he was polite, he could not hide his arrogance. The Azure Cloud Mansion was an outstanding quasi-third-rate force. Unless they were the juniors of some high-ranking officials in the quasi-third-rate forces, he did not take any disciples from other quasi-third-rate forces seriously. So what if I am? So what if I'm not? The sneer on Duan Lingtian's face deepened as a hint of mockery appeared in his eyes. How dare you trick Master Yun? Zhu Mu Si was the first to regain his senses when he saw the mockery in Duan Lingtian's eyes. He looked at Duan Lingtian as though he was looking at a monster. He did not expect this fellow to be so daring. After finding out Yun Kuan was a disciple from a quasi-third-rate force, the Azure Cloud Mansion, he still dared to tease and provoke Yun Kuan. Was he really not afraid of death? Or did he think he was a match for Yun Kuan? Although Zhu Mu Si was filled with righteous indignation, a hint of schadenfreude could be seen in his eyes. He was happy to see this scene unfold before his eyes. As for Zhu Yuan and Zhu Lai, They were also rejoicing in Duan Lingtian's misfortune when they looked at him. The young man in front of them was so powerful that their Windfall Nation's imperial family could not do anything to him at all. However, they were unwilling to let him go just like that. No matter what, he had killed more than 10 people from the Windfall Nation's imperial family. They could not wait to kill him. I sent this junior brother? At the same time, Bai Li Hong finally regained his senses. When Duan Lingtian appeared and spoke in a hoarse voice, he could tell it was the voice of the powerhouse who was hiding in the dark. Initially, he thought Duan Lingtian had found a helper. It did not cross his mind that it was Duan Lingtian himself. It has only been slightly more than a year, but Junior Brother's strength has already risen to such a level? No matter what, Hua Jian was at the peak of the pristine saint stage, but he was instantly killed by him. How did his cultivation base rise in this 1 year? When Bai Li Hong realized his junior brother's strength had already reached the refined saint stage after more than a year, he felt as though he was struck by lightning. However, he regained his senses quickly this time. Brat, you're seeking death. The thing that caused Bai Li Hong to regain his senses was Yun Kuen's angry shout. At this moment, Yun Kuen finally regained his senses. When he regained his senses, he was, naturally, furious. He could not suppress his anger at all. His robe fluttered, and the aura of a powerhouse at the peak of the refined saint stage was completely released. In an instant, with him as the center, the space within 100 meters of him shook. Wave-like ripples spread out, like a stone falling into a calm lake, setting off waves of ripples. Yun Kuen's territory quickly consolidated. When the 3 men from the Windfall Nation's imperial family and the Zhu clan saw this, a cruel smile appeared on their faces. In their opinion, since Yun Kuen had made his move, this young man would definitely die. Junior brother. Bai Li Hong's expression changed drastically as uneasiness rose in his heart. At this moment, he had completely forgotten that he was here to be the bait under Duan Lingtian's instructions. If Duan Lingtian was not confident, would he have asked him to do this? Naturally, the reason Bai Li Hong did not think of this was because he was concerned about Duan Lingtian. As the saying went, the more concerned one is, the more confused one becomes. This was exactly what Bai Li Hong meant. Faced with Yun Kuen, who had consolidated his territory, a sword suddenly appeared in Duan Lingtian's hand. It was a sword that looked very ordinary and plain. At this moment, Duan Lingtian's eyes narrowed. At this moment, the sun's true origin in his body began to stir. It flowed through his 99 saint veins and gathered in his hand that was holding the sword in just a blink of an eye. It continued to surge into the sword, causing the originally plain sword to emit a dazzling golden radiance. Whoosh! The radiance grew brighter and brighter. In the end, it looked like a blazing sun hanging in the sky. It's that sword. The sword in Duan Lingtian's hand was the Jasper Celestial Sword. Apart from him, Bai Li Hong could also recognize it. Even Bai Li Hong did not know why, but when he saw the sword in Duan Lingtian's hand, the restlessness in his heart was strangely suppressed. He calmed down as well. After he calmed down, he recalled the reason he was here. Junior brother, is he confident he can defeat Yun Kuen? Although Bai Li Hong also felt that it was somewhat inconceivable, a trace of longing rose in his heart. Bai Li Hong's eyes were completely focused on the sword in Duan Lingtian's hand. Although the sword was shrouded in a dazzling golden radiance, one could still see its outline. Bai Li Hong still remembered the first time he saw this sword. It was in the Moon Illumination sect. He would never forget the scene that happened at that time. His junior brother used this sword with his cultivation base at the Saint Rudiment stage and killed a pristine Saint Stage Supreme Elder from the Moon Illumination sect with just one slash. More than a year ago, during the battle between Duan Lingtian and Lin Dong from the Southern Ridge Yuan Mansion's Lin clan. Although he did not see it clearly, he was certain it had something to do with this sword. You don't even need to use your territory, and you want to fight me, Yun Kuen, with just a lousy sword? You're seeking death. After Yun Kuen's territory was formed, he noticed Duan Lingtian had only taken out a sword and did not have any intention of forming a territory. He could not help but have a mocking expression on his face as he sneered. Why would I need a territory to kill you? Duan Lingtian said indifferently in the face of Yun Kuen's mockery. Based on his words, It was as though he was certain Yun Kuan would win. Duan Lingtian's words entered Yun Kuan's ears. When Yun Kuan saw Duan Lingtian's indifference, it was undoubtedly a blatant provocation. You're seeking death. Chapter 17:13. Zhu Muxi, Zhu Yuan, and Zhu Lai smiled when they saw Yun Kuan making his move. At this moment, it was as though they could already see the scene of the young man being killed. However, their smiles froze soon after. From the moment they started laughing to the moment their smiles froze, everything happened in just a blink of an eye. It was so fast that ordinary people could not even react in time. The reason their smiles froze was because the scene before their eyes was completely out of their expectations. Yun Kuan made his move furiously. His speed was so fast that even the three of them could not catch a glimpse of it. However, in just a blink of an eye, Yun Kuan's figure that had disappeared from their sight appeared again as a sword cry reverberated in the air. However, Yun Kuan's figure appeared in a different way. To be more precise, Yun Kuan's body that appeared before their eyes was split into two from top to bottom. After a while, a dazzling stream of blood spurted out. Upon seeing this, Zhu Muxi and the other two were dumbfounded. Yun Kuan, who was extremely powerful in their eyes, was killed in just one move? At the same time, Bai Li Hong could not help but sigh in relief when he saw Yun Kuan was dead. His eyes were filled with shock as he looked at Duan Lingtian. The progress of his junior brother's cultivation base was so fast that he was almost numb to it. A powerhouse at the peak of the refined saint stage was killed by him in just one move. In other words, with the help of that powerful sword, his junior brother's attack was comparable to the attack of a great saint stage powerhouse. Only an eminent saint stage powerhouse would be able to kill Yun Kuan, who was at the peak of the refined saint stage, in just one move. In fact, Yun Kuan was a disciple from a quasi-third-rate force. Apart from having a powerful cultivation base, his technique was definitely not simple. He might not be the best among the martial and Dao cultivators at the peak of the refined saint stage, but he was definitely stronger than many people. However, such a person was instantly killed by his junior brother with just one move. He did not know when his junior brother made his move. He did not even hear the sword cry. Naturally, he knew the sword cry must have been there. However, it was too short, and his cultivation base was too low. He did not hear it at all. As it turned out, Bai Li Hong was right. He did not hear the sword cry, but Zhu Muxi and the other two whose cultivation bases were at the refined saint stage heard it. Naturally, Zhu Muxi's cultivation base was the highest, so she could hear it the clearest. It was precisely because of this that Zhu Muxi's face instantly turned ghastly pale when she saw Yun Kuan's corpse falling from the sky. Her body started to tremble involuntarily. Yun Kuan's death was something he had never expected. His heart trembled when he recalled how he had used his connections to provoke the young man in front of him. If the heavens gave him another chance, even if he was given 100 guts, he would not dare to provoke this young man like before. Damn it! It was all Yun Kuan's fault. If he hadn't sworn that he could take care of the other party, I wouldn't have provoked him like that. Thinking of this, Zhu Muxi looked at Yun Kuan's body that had been split into two and gnashed her teeth in hatred. I can't believe I'll be able to cast such a powerful sword strike when I activate the Jasper Celestial Sword with my current Sun True Origin. No matter what, Yun Kuan was a disciple from the quasi-third-rate force, the Azure Cloud Mansion. His cultivation base was at the peak of the refined saint stage, but he was killed by me in just one strike. Unknowingly, the dazzling golden light on the Jasper Celestial Sword in Duan Lingtian's hand had completely vanished. Duan Lingtian reached out to stroke the Jasper Celestial Sword gently as he muttered to himself. Swoosh! After Duan Lingtian took Yun Kuan's spatial ring, he shot out like a cannonball and appeared in front of Zhu Muxi, Zhu Yuan, and Zhu Lai in just a flash. At this moment, the three of them had a grave expression on their faces. Fear and terror could be seen in their eyes. Why? Are you scared now? When Duan Lingtian saw their expressions and gazes, a devilish smile crept up on the corner of his mouth as he mocked them. My lord, I, Zhu Muxi, have eyes but failed to recognize your greatness. Please forgive me, my lord. With your strength, The Devil Seal tablet will definitely be yours in the end. What a joke. That Yun Kuan really thought he was invincible just because he was a disciple from the quasi-third-rate force, the Azure Cloud Mansion. Little did he know there's a reclusive expert like you in this world, my lord. Zhu Mu Ci said to Duan Lingtian with a flattering expression on his face after he took a deep breath. At this moment, he no longer looked as majestic as before. He looked like a street boy now. When Zhu Yuan and Zhu Lai saw the expression on Zhu Mu Ci's face, they could not help but be stunned. This was their first time seeing their imperial uncle lose his composure like this. It was as though he was a completely different person. However, they did not know Zhu Mu Ci was scared out of his wits. If he did not mock the young man in front of him earlier, perhaps the young man would not have bothered with him with his strength. However, the problem was he had mocked the young man earlier. He knew if he was in the young man's shoes, he would not let him go so easily. In fact, after killing Yun Kuan, Duan Lingtian did not plan to do anything to Zhu Mu Ci and the other two. Moreover, he did not take Zhu Mu Ci's words to heart at all. It was as though he was walking on the street and a dog barked at him. He could not possibly run over and kill it, right? However, when Duan Lingtian saw Zhu Mu Ci's flattering expression, he could not help but feel disgusted. He raised his hand and casually swung his sword. A sword ray swept across the sky and killed Zhu Mu Ci before he could even react. Yun Kuan, who was at the peak of the refined saint stage, was killed by his Jasper celestial sword, let alone an intermediate refined saint stage martial cultivator. Although he had only casually swung his sword earlier, and the force was far from the sword that killed Yun Kuan, it was still not something Zhu Mu Ci could block or react to. Imperial Uncle. When Zhu Yuan and Zhu Lai saw Zhu Mu Ci had died just like that, horror dawned on them as they cried out in grief. However, their eyes were bloodshot, and they did not dare to show any signs of hatred. Who knew if this young man in front of them would also kill them and eliminate them when they were filled with hatred? Although they really wanted to kill him, they knew they did not have the ability to do so. The only thing they could do now was to try their best not to provoke him. Perhaps they might be able to save their lives that way. However, Duan Lingtian did not intend to kill Zhu Yuan and Zhu Lai at all. Although it was as easy as pie for him to kill Zhu Yuan and Zhu Lai, both of them were refined saint stage powerhouses in the Windfall Nation's imperial family after all. If both of them and Zhu Mu Ci died, the Windfall Nation's imperial family that no longer had any powerhouses to restrain them would fall into chaos. If the Windfall Nation's imperial family was in chaos, the complicated relationships would spread out. The entire capital and the entire Windfall Nation would be in chaos. At that time, the clan leader of Situ clan and his son, who were relatives of the imperial family, would definitely be implicated, and the Situ clan would be affected as well. The Situ clan was where his family and friends lived. Naturally, he did not want anything to happen to the Situ clan. For this reason, he did not kill Zhu Yuan and Zhu Li. I'm determined to get the Devil Seal tablet. If I find out that the Windfall Nation's imperial family has made a move on Duan Lingtian's companions and alerted him, I'll definitely kill both of you. Duan Lingtian glanced at Zhu Yuan and Zhu Li coldly before vanishing into thin air before their eyes. As for Bai Li Hong, he did not bring him away. With his disguise, he was a stranger to Bai Li Hong. They did not have much interaction, so it was not appropriate for him to bring Bai Li Hong away. Naturally, Duan Lingtian knew very well that although he had left Bai Li Hong behind, as long as Zhu Yuan, the Windfall Nation's emperor, was smart, he would not make things difficult for Bai Li Hong anymore. The truth was just as Duan Lingtian had expected. Bai Li Hong did not encounter any obstructions when he left the imperial palace. He returned to the Situ clan without a hitch. The entire Situ clan was in an uproar when they saw Bai Li Hong, who was abducted by the imperial family's revered elder 2 months ago, had returned. In fact, nobody thought Bai Li Hong would be able to return. Bai Li Hong could either obediently become the exclusive Saint Inscription Master of the Windfall Nation's imperial family or die. In their opinion, Bai Li Hong only had 2 choices. However, it did not cross their minds that Bai Li Hong would actually return. This was akin to a sheep escaping from a tiger's den. Master Bai Li. When the clan leader of Situ clan and his son learned of Bai Li Hong's return, they personally came out to welcome him. Apart from the joy on their faces, there was also a hint of guilt on their faces. They felt guilty for being unable to stop the imperial family from taking Bai Li Hong away. This was especially true for Situ Hang, the young master of Situ clan. When he saw Bai Li Hong had returned, he heaved a long sigh of relief. He still remembered Master Duan had specifically asked him to take good care of his family and friends before he left. When Bai Li Hong was taken away, he felt very sorry for Master Duan. He even punished himself by kneeling in front of the wall for more than a month. Now that he saw Bai Li Hong was fine and had even returned to the Situ clan, he could not help but heave a sigh of relief. However, after the pleasant surprise, everyone in Situ clan, including the clan leader of Situ clan, was curious about Bai Li Hong's experience. In their opinion, it was impossible for the Windfall Nation's imperial family to let go of a 4-star saint inscription master so easily. This could be seen from the fact that Ziyun, the sect leader of Drift Blaze sect, was severely injured when she went to the imperial palace to ask for Bai Li Hong. "It's a powerhouse who saved me." Naturally, Bai Li Hong would not tell them the truth. This was also what his junior brother, Duan Lingtian, had told him. "That powerhouse was interested in the Devil Seal tablet in my junior brother's possession. However, he was afraid that if something happened to me after I was abducted and tortured by the people from the imperial palace, my junior brother would be even more cautious and hide himself even deeper. For this reason, he saved me and warned the Windfall Nation's emperor not to have any ideas about me." Upon hearing Bai Li Hong's words, Situ Hao, Situ Hang, and the others were shocked. Even that was possible? What an eccentric powerhouse. However, it's fortunate that you met this powerhouse, Master Bai Li. Otherwise, it's impossible for you to return so quickly. One of the Situ clan's elders sighed emotionally. It was impossible for him to return so quickly? Chapter 17:14. If not for the appearance of his junior brother, not only would he not have been able to return so quickly, he would not have been able to return at all. Perhaps one day, he would have died in that prison. Master Bai Li, it's said that the Windfall Nation's imperial family has a powerhouse at the peak of the refined saint stage as their backer. When that powerhouse saved you, the powerhouse at the peak of the refined saint stage from the Windfall Nation's imperial family didn't make a move, right? One of the Situ clan's elders could not help but ask. Everyone from the Situ clan, including Situ Hao, Situ Hang, and the others, looked at Bai Li Hong. They were also curious about this. The powerhouse who was treated as an honored guest by the Windfall Nation's imperial family was a powerhouse at the peak of the refined saint stage. Even Ziyun, the sect leader of Drift Blaze sect, was heavily injured by him. He probably didn't do anything. Otherwise, the expert who saved Master Bailey might not have succeeded. Before Bai Li Hong could speak, another Situ clan's elder guessed. That's true. After all, he's a powerhouse at the peak of the refined saint stage. If he really wants to stop us, not everyone would be able to save Master Bai Li, another person said. If there was really an unknown expert who had saved him, Bai Li Hong would only laugh it off when he heard these words. He would not explain it at all. However, it was precisely because he knew that the person who saved him was not an expert of unknown origin, but his junior brother, that he could not bear to hear these people belittling his junior brother. Are you talking about that Yun Kuan? Not only is his cultivation base at the peak of the refined saint stage, but his origin is not simple as well. He's from the quasi-third-rate force, the Azure Cloud Mansion. What? Someone from the quasi-third-rate force, Azure Cloud Mansion? My goodness. The Windfall Nation's imperial family actually managed to latch onto the Azure Cloud Mansion? The Azure Cloud Mansion? It's said that this force is one of the 2 strongest quasi-third-rate forces. The group of people from Situ clan was shocked when they found out Yun Kuan, who was treated as a distinguished guest by the Windfall Nation's imperial family, was actually from the quasi-third-rate force, the Azure Cloud Mansion. The Situ clan was merely a 7th-rate force. On the other hand, the Azure Cloud Mansion was a quasi-third-rate force. Any powerhouse from a force like that could easily annihilate the Situ clan. So what if they're from the Azure Cloud Mansion? In the end, he still died. Bai Li Hong said disdainfully. It must be said that when Bai Li Hong's words entered the ears of the people from the Situ clan, it was like a bolt from the blue. They could not regain their senses for a long time. After regaining their senses, no one spoke for a long time. Instead, they looked at each other and saw the shock and disbelief in each other's eyes. That Yun Kuan is dead? Someone actually dares to kill the people from the Azure Cloud Mansion? Is he not afraid of death? The people from the Situ clan did not doubt Bai Li Hong's words because this matter was like a ball of fire that could not be contained with paper. Even if Bai Li Hong did not say anything, they would definitely find out later. However, what shocked them the most was not the fact that Yun Kuan was from the Azure Cloud Mansion. Instead, it was the fact that someone dared to kill someone from the Azure Cloud Mansion. Was he not afraid of the Azure Cloud Mansion's revenge? The Azure Cloud Mansion was a powerful force that stood at the peak of the Debussy subterranean. Soon after, many Situ clan's elders asked about the incident. That powerhouse only used one sword to slash Yun Kuan into two. Although I'm at the early pristine saint stage, I didn't even catch the sound of the sword whistling from the beginning until the end. Based on this, one can see how fast that sword was. Bai Li Hong said again. Yun Kuan, who was at the peak of the refined saint stage, was instantly killed with just one sword? The group of Situ clan's members, including Situ Hao and Situ Hang, were shocked again. Bai Li Hong casually said a few more words to the Situ clan's members before he bade farewell and returned to his residence. Before this, Feng Wu Dao, Sima Changfeng, and the others were still unaware of what had happened. However, since Duan Lingtian had said Bai Li Hong would return today before he left, they did not leave immediately and waited in the courtyard of Bai Li Hong's residence. All of you. The moment Bai Li Hong entered the courtyard, he saw Feng Wu Dao and the others were all there. All of them had a worried expression on their faces, and he was instantly touched. Master Bai Li. When Feng Wu Dao and the others saw Bai Li Hong had really returned, they were pleasantly surprised. What? Don't tell me all of you didn't believe my words before this? At this moment, Duan Lingtian had also returned. After he returned, he removed his disguise and revealed his true appearance. When Bai Li Hong saw the familiar figure in front of him and the familiar face after his disguise, he could not help but feel excited. He walked up and patted Duan Lingtian's shoulder before he sighed emotionally. Junior brother, I can't believe you've already attained the strength of the eminent saint stage after more than a year. The strength of the eminent saint stage. When Feng Wu Dao, Sima Changfeng, and the others heard Bai Li Hong's words, they were dumbfounded. Eminent saint stage? Currently, they were no longer the hotheads who had just arrived at the Dao Martial Saint Land. Naturally, they knew what the three words eminent saint stage meant. The eminent saint stage was also one of the cultivation stages in the saint stage. Entering the saint stage from the saint rudiment stage was the pristine saint stage. After the pristine saint stage was the refined saint stage. After the refined saint stage was the eminent saint stage. Master Bai Li, you're not joking, right? You're saying Duan Lingtian is an eminent saint stage powerhouse? Chun Xiao Shui gasped as he looked at Duan Lingtian in shock. He looked at him as though he was looking at a monster. Duan Lingtian, you've really broken through to the eminent saint stage? Nan Gongyi gulped. He could not help but ask after a long while. No. Duan Lingtian shook his head. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, apart from Bai Li Hong who seemed to be deep in thought, Feng Wu Dao, Sima Changfeng, and the other sighed in relief. So Master Bai Li is really joking. Master Bai Li, please don't joke about this in the future. My little heart can't take it. Nan Gongyi said with a bitter expression. You're saying your little heart is dirty? Who are you trying to fool? Chun Xiao Shui said disdainfully. When Bai Li Hong saw that the atmosphere had become lively again, he shook his head and did not say anything else. I haven't broken through to the eminent saint stage yet, but due to certain reasons, I can cast an attack that's comparable to an eminent saint stage powerhouse. Of course, it's only limited to an ordinary eminent saint stage powerhouse. When Bai Li Hong did not intend to explain, Duan Lingtian's voice resonated in the air again. Apart from Bai Li Hong who had an expression of realization, Feng Wu Dao, Sima Changfeng, and the others were dumbstruck again. They only regained their senses after a long time. Monster! Freak! Nangong Ian Chun Xiao Shui looked at Duan Lingtian and only managed to squeeze out 2 words after a long time. In this case, Duan Lingtian, you're the one who personally rescued Master Bai Li? Chun Xiao Shui asked again. Let me tell you. Bai Li Hong took over the conversation and recounted the whole story. Although he was only recounting what had happened, Bai Li Hong felt as though he was in the same situation as Bai Li Hong. Master Bai Li, aren't you too amazing? You actually swaggered out of the Imperial Palace from the depths of the Imperial Palace. Although I wasn't there at that time, I can see the expression on the faces of those fellows in the Imperial Palace. Chun Xiao Shui and Nangongyi sighed emotionally. However, their gazes quickly shifted to Duan Lingtian, just like Feng Wu Dao and the others. What shocked them the most was Duan Lingtian's strength. Yun Kuan, the disciple of the quasi-third-rate force Azure Cloud Mansion, whose cultivation base was at the peak of the refined saint stage, was killed by him with just a strike of his sword. Lingtian boy, no matter what, Yun Kuan is still a disciple of the quasi-third-rate force Azure Cloud Mansion. I wonder if he's an important figure in the Azure Cloud Mansion. If he is, I'm afraid the Azure Cloud Mansion won't let this matter go so easily. Feng Wu Dao said solemnly. Upon hearing his words, Sima Changfeng and the others broke out in cold sweat for Duan Lingtian. So what if the Azure Cloud Mansion won't let this matter go so easily? Don't forget that I didn't use Duan Lingtian's true appearance to kill him. If the Azure Cloud Mansion wants to find the murderer, they'll have to find him first. Unlike Feng Wu Dao and the others who were worried, Duan Lingtian, the person involved, was not worried at all. Instead, he was very calm. Feng Wu Dao and the others were also worried. When they heard Duan Lingtian's words, they were instantly enlightened and relaxed. Uncle Feng, I've already learned about Tian Wu's departure. However, she didn't look for me. May I know if she's returned recently? Duan Lingtian asked as he looked at Feng Wu Dao. She hasn't. Feng Wu Dao shook his head. Although he knew his daughter was protected by a powerhouse, he could not help but feel worried. Perhaps that powerhouse was considered a powerhouse in Windfall Nation. However, he was nothing in the outside world. Duan Lingtian nodded and said, Don't tell anyone about my return. With the words I've said in the Windfall Nation's Imperial Palace, the Windfall Nation's Imperial family won't dare to make things difficult for all of you anymore. All of you stay in the Situ clan properly. When I'm strong enough in the future, I'll come and take all of you away. Don't slack off on your cultivation. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Bai Li Hong and the others knew Duan Lingtian was going to leave. For a moment, they were very reluctant to see him leave. However, they also knew the Windfall Nation was not Duan Lingtian's stage. The sea was wide, and the sky was wide, and the sky was wide. The outside world was the most suitable stage for a monstrous martial Dao genius like Duan Lingtian. After leaving the Situ clan and the capital of Windfall Nation, Duan Lingtian went to the Drift Blaze sect. When he arrived at the Drift Blaze sect, he learned sect leader Zi Yun was in closed-door cultivation to recuperate. He instantly realized sect leader Zi Yun's injuries were not light. Tell sect leader Zi Yun that I've avenged her. Since sect leader Zi Yun was in closed-door cultivation to recuperate, Duan Lingtian, naturally, did not disturb her. He asked one of her direct disciples to pass the message on his behalf. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, sect leader Zi Yun's direct disciple scoffed. She knew who the person who injured her master was. Although this gigolo whom her junior sister had taken a fancy to had a good innate talent and strength, how could he possibly be capable of dealing with a powerhouse at the peak of the refined saint stage? Duan Lingtian could see the other party's disbelief, but he did not bother to explain. He believed the news would spread to the Drift Blaze sect from the capital in 2 days at most. It's time for me to go to the mystical sky mansion now. Chapter 17:15. Duan Lingtian had given it a lot of thought before he asked Zi Yun's direct disciple to pass on the message that he had avenged Zi Yun. Although he had a different face and identity when he made his move in the Windfall Nation's Imperial Palace, Duan Lingtian did not plan to hide it from Zi Yun since she was Feng Tianwu's master. As for the direct disciple who passed on the message, when he met Tianwu in the Drift Blaze sect, He found out from Tianwu that this senior sister of hers was an orphan that her master had adopted since she was young. She treated her master like her own mother and always took care of her. Due to this reason, Duan Lingtian was not worried that she would leak this matter out. Naturally, not many people would believe her even if she leaked this matter out. When he made his move in the Windfall Nation's imperial palace and killed Yun Kuan and Zhu Mu Ci, Duan Lingtian had used a different face. He had used the disguising secret tactic that Hualao had passed on to him. Zhu Yuan and Zhu Lai, who were present at that time, had also used their divine consciousness to examine him. They would definitely know that his face was not fake. How miraculous was the disguising secret tactic? Even in the entire Dao Martial Saint Land, there might not be a second person who knew about it. Other people would not even think that such a miraculous disguising secret tactic existed in this world. Due to this reason, Zhu Yuan and Zhu Lai would be the first to jump out and clear Duan Lingtian's name when the time came. After leaving the Drift Blaze sect, Duan Lingtian left the Windfall Nation and did not return to the capital of Windfall Nation. I wonder where Tianwu is. Until now, there's still no news from father and mother. If I didn't destroy the Jade Token in the exquisite Jade Box, I'm afraid I would have reunited with them by now. Little Fei was actually taken away by father's people. I wonder how father found out that little Fei is in the Greenwave Han Mansion. After leaving the Windfall Nation, Duan Lingtian's emotions began to drift away. His heart was filled with longing. There's also Kerr. I wonder how she's doing now. Is our child safe or not? When Duan Lingtian learned that Li Fei had been taken away by his cheapskate father's people, he immediately felt relieved. However, compared to Li Fei's safety, Kerr's situation was still a mystery. Due to this reason, he was very worried. After leaving the Windfall Nation, Duan Lingtian did not go to the Greenwave Han Mansion. Instead, he went directly to the Mystical Sky Mansion. As one of the quasi-third-rate forces in the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, the Mystical Sky Mansion was located in the north of the lower province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Even if Duan Lingtian traveled at his current speed, it would still take him almost a month to reach there. Naturally, with Duan Lingtian's current cultivation base, it was fine even if he did not sleep or rest. Due to this reason, in less than a month's time, he entered the area where the Mystical Sky Mansion was located. This place was also known as the Mystical Sky Territory. The Mystical Sky Territory was so vast that it encompassed two great fourth-rate forces. One of the fourth-rate forces was not unfamiliar to Duan Lingtian. It was the fourth-rate force, the Raging Wave Mansion. Lu Hongguang, the second elder of the Raging Wave Mansion, was one of the two hosts of the Rising Sky Ranking battle in the Rising Sky Ranking District. Initially, he planned to join either the Raging Wave Mansion or the Sky Hurdle Mansion. However, when he heard the news of the Mystical Sky Mansion recruiting disciples, he quickly changed his mind and stood Lu Hongguang and Ranzhong up. Ranzhong was the Vice Mansion Master of the Sky Hurdle Mansion. Duan Lingtian could not help but feel guilty about this. If he had the chance, he would definitely return the favor to Lu Hongguang and Ranzhong. After entering the Mystical Sky Territory, Duan Lingtian randomly found a city to settle down in. He even found a restaurant to sit down. Before Duan Lingtian could even warm his seat, two voices entered his ears. Hey, did you hear? The young mansion master of the fourth-rate force, the Rising Sky Mansion, is dead. Moreover, he was killed by someone during the Rising Sky Ranking battle. I've heard about this as well. It's said that a monstrous sexless cultivator appeared in the Rising Sky Mansion's district some time ago. Moreover, he was chosen by both the Sky Hurdle Mansion and the Raging Wave Mansion at the same time. However, that sexless cultivator is really something as well. He actually stood up the Vice Mansion Master of Sky Hurdle Mansion and the second elder of Raging Wave Mansion. Actually, this is understandable. With his innate talent and strength, let alone a fourth-rate force, even a quasi-third-rate force would fight to recruit him. Moreover, it just so happens that the Mystical Sky Mansion's St. Martial Secret Zone is going to open soon. Not only that, but they're also recruiting Saint Stage geniuses below the age of 40. That person's decision to join the Mystical Sky Mansion was the right choice. I don't think he stood up because of the Mystical Sky Mansion. As far as I know, before the Rising Sky Ranking battle began, the news of the mystical Sky Mansion recruiting Saint stage geniuses below the age of 40 had yet to spread to the rising Sky Mansion's district. The two of them discussed animatedly. When their words entered Duan Lingtian's ears, Duan Lingtian could not help but smile. It did not cross his mind that the matter he did in the rising Sky Mansion's district had spread to the mystical Sky Mansion's district. Not only that, but his name, Li Feng, had also attracted many people's attention. It said that the mystical Sky Mansion recently announced that if Li Feng, the person ranked first on the Rising Sky ranking, is willing to join the mystical Sky Mansion, the mystical Sky Mansion will directly give him a spot to enter the Saint Martial secret zone. There's no need for him to compete with the others. Moreover, the mystical Sky Mansion will spare no effort in nurturing him. The mystical Sky Mansion is really generous. However, this also shows how desperate the mystical Sky Mansion is for talented people. That Li Feng has a cultivation base at the peak of the refined saint stage before the age of 40. Even if the mystical Sky Mansion doesn't directly give him a spot to enter the Saint Martial secret zone, with his strength, won't it be a piece of cake for him to obtain a spot? Due to this reason, the mystical Sky Mansion's promise is useless to Li Feng. Perhaps Li Feng doesn't care about this promise. However, the mystical Sky Mansion has already announced that as long as he's willing to join the mystical Sky Mansion, they'll spare no effort in nurturing him. With the mystical Sky Mansion's resources, with Li Feng's innate talent, he'll definitely improve even faster. I'm afraid it won't be long before he becomes a pillar in the mystical Sky Mansion. That's right. I really didn't expect such a monstrous genius like Li Feng would appear in our WCI Subterranean. It said that not only the mystical Sky Mansion, but the other quasi-third-rate forces have also extended an olive branch to Li Feng. With Li Feng's innate talent, no matter which third-rate force he joins, he'll definitely be able to receive the best nurturing. Although I've never been to the upper province of the Dao Martial Saintland, in my opinion, even those young geniuses in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saintland might not be a match for Li Feng. Unfortunately, ever since the Rising Sky ranking battle ended, Li Feng seemed to have vanished from the face of the earth. That Rising Sky Mansion has racked their brains to look for him and avenge their young mansion master, but to no avail. Someone said that a powerhouse from the upper province of the Dao Martial Saintland took a liking to Li Feng and brought him to the upper province of the Dao Martial Saintland. There's also someone who said that Li Feng was originally a genius martial cultivator from the upper province of the Dao Martial Saintland, and he came to the lower province to train. As for the Rising Sky ranking battle, it was merely a spur-of-the-moment decision. Duan Lingtian noticed that most of the customers in the surroundings were talking about him. Naturally, he knew this was because the news about the Rising Sky ranking battle had just spread to the mystical Sky Mansion not long ago. After a while, this topic would naturally die down. However, even so, Duan Lingtian could not help but sigh emotionally. He did not expect that he had unexpectedly become a celebrity by participating in the Rising Sky ranking battle for Xuanai. Moreover, a few quasi-third-rate forces had even extended an olive branch to him. Why don't I just join the mystical Sky Mansion as Li Feng? Duan Lingtian thought to himself as his heart jolted. However, he dismissed this thought as soon as he thought about it. With my current strength, even if I don't join the mystical Sky Mansion as Li Feng, I'll still be qualified to enter the Saint Martial secret zone. As long as I display enough innate talent and value, the cultivation resources in the mystical Sky Mansion will naturally lean toward me. Most importantly, if I join the mystical Sky Mansion as Li Feng, Tian Wu definitely won't know I'm in the mystical Sky Mansion. For this reason, it's better for me to use the name Ling Tian. With Tian Wu's intelligence, even if she's not certain Ling Tian is me, Duan Ling Tian, she'll definitely come and investigate. The moment Duan Ling Tian thought of this, he made up his mind and entered the mystical Sky Mansion as Ling Tian. However, there were still 10 months before the mystical Sky Mansion would recruit disciples. Due to this reason, Duan Ling Tian was not in a hurry. He found a remote mountain nearby and dug a small hole that would not be exposed to wind and rain before placing the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda inside. Soon after, he entered the 3rd level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda with just a thought. 10 months in the outside world would be more than 4 years in the 3rd level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. Even if Duan Lingtian did not have time to go to the mystical sky mansion, he would still be able to stay in the Seven Treasures exquisite pagoda for about 4 years. During this period of time, his cultivation base would definitely improve. He was confident he would be able to raise his cultivation base to the peak of the pristine saint stage. For this reason, Duan Lingtian completely immersed himself in his cultivation. Naturally, apart from cultivating, he did not forget to hug the Jasper Celestial Sword and further comprehend the Supreme Sword Dao mental cultivation method, the Sovereign Heart Sword. Duan Lingtian had already witnessed the might of the Sovereign Heart Sword. Due to this reason, he decided to fully immerse himself in the Sovereign Heart Sword and no longer study or cultivate other martial tactics. After all, the other martial tactics in the Dao martial saintland were nothing compared to the Sovereign Heart Sword. There was no need for him to neglect the essentials. Duan Lingtian, who was immersed in his cultivation, was, naturally, unaware that a few months later, Han Xuanai's master had returned to the Greenwave Han mansion and brought Han Xuanai and the 3 little fellows away. Brother Ling Tian, Han Xuanai, who was heading to the upper province of the Dao martial saintland, turned around and looked into the distance with a gloomy expression on her face. Chapter 17:16. In the deepest part of the mountain range behind the clouds, there were 4 steep mountains standing there. They were like 4 pillars that pierced through the clouds. If one looked closely at the sky above the 4 mountains, one would see a huge island hovering in midair after the clouds drifted to the side with the wind. The island was shrouded in clouds and mist, making it look like a celestial island. The island did not have any support, and it just hovered in the air. With just a glance, it was visually stunning. That island, it's actually hovering in the air? Goodness, how did they do it? Many people were gathered near one of the steep mountains. Some of them had a shocked expression on their faces as they stared at the island hovering behind the clouds. In their opinion, this hovering island seemed to defy common sense. Naturally, there were also many people who remained calm. Some of them could not help but mock. What a bunch of country bumpkins. Don't you know that a powerful formation can support an island to hover in the air for a long time? This is the mystical Sky Mansion's estate after all. It's not strange for such a formation to appear here. The formation was supporting the island. In the crowd, Duan Lingtian, who had changed his name to Lingtian, was also looking at the hovering island. The island floating in the air gave him a visual shock. How strong is the array formation to hold up such a huge island? Not only that, but the number of saint stones required to support the operation of the formation must be an astronomical figure as well. Duan Lingtian had a certain level of understanding of formations. Duan Lingtian, who was standing in the crowd, had disguised himself as a handsome young man. He was dressed in green, and his arms were wrapped around a simple and unadorned sword that looked extremely ordinary. This sword was none other than the Jasper Celestial Sword. Due to the fact that today was the day the quasi-third-rate force, the mystical Sky Mansion, recruited saint stage geniuses below the age of 40, Duan Lingtian had also awakened from his closed-door cultivation and made his way to the mystical Sky Mansion's estate in time. Naturally, the mystical Sky Mansion's estate was not open to the public, so it was difficult for ordinary people to enter. Today, due to the fact that the mystical Sky Mansion was recruiting saint stage geniuses below the age of 40, the mystical Sky Mansion's estate was also open to the public. Not only could saint stage geniuses below the age of 40 enter, but their friends and family could also enter. Naturally, the entrance was limited to the foot of the mountain in the mystical Sky Mansion's estate. The mystical Sky Mansion's estate was divided into 5 locations. One of the locations was the floating island where the high-ranking officials of the mystical Sky Mansion usually stayed. The cultivation environment there was much better than the other 4 locations as well. The other 4 were the 4 steep mountains that were like pillars that supported the heavens. On top of each steep mountain, there was a hall. The mystical Sky Mansion was divided into the Heaven Palace, Earth Palace, Mystical Palace, and Yellow Palace. Between each palace, there was also a competitive relationship. For example, the saint stage geniuses below the age of 40 that the mystical Sky Mansion was going to recruit would be divided among the 4 palaces. As for the saint stage geniuses who were divided up, they would have to fight for the qualification to enter the Saint Martial Secret Zone in their respective palaces. The quota for entering the Saint Martial Secret Zone was the same for every palace. All of a sudden, Duan Lingtian seemed to have noticed something as he raised his head abruptly. With just a glance, he saw a familiar figure walking in the air from afar. Behind this person were two young men. Based on the faint aura they emitted, it was obvious they were at the saint stage or above as well. The person in the lead was a middle-aged man. He was none other than the second elder of the Raging Wave Mansion, Lu Hongguang. Previously, when Duan Lingtian participated in the Rising Sky ranking battle, Lu Hongguang was one of the hosts, and he took good care of him. At that time, Lu Hongguang and Rinzhong, the vice mansion master of Sky Hurdle Mansion, both of them wanted to recruit him into their respective forces. In the end, when Duan Lingtian found out the mystical Sky Mansion was recruiting saint stage geniuses below the age of 40, he stood Lu Hongguang and Rinzhong up. Now that Duan Lingtian saw one of the people involved, he could not help but feel his cheeks burning even though he had disguised himself. It seems like the temptation of the Saint Martial Secret Zone is so great that even Elder Lu has brought people here. The two people behind him must be at the pristine saint stage, or above as well. Judging by their ages, they're not even 40 years old yet. Duan Lingtian thought to himself as he looked at the two people behind Lu Hongguang. It's Elder Lu from the Raging Wave Mansion. Lu Hongguang's appearance quickly attracted many people's attention. No matter what, the Raging Wave Mansion was still a fourth-rate force in the mystical sky region. As the second elder of the Raging Wave Mansion, it was only natural that many people recognized Lu Hongguang. Many of them even stepped forward to greet him. The Raging Wave Mansion is the first fourth-rate force to come today. If I'm not mistaken, the two young men following behind Elder Lu should be the two most outstanding people among the younger generation in the Raging Wave Mansion. They're called Lu Jian and Li En respectively. I've heard of Lu Jian before. He's Elder Lu's nephew. Not only is his innate talent high, but due to the fact that Elder Lu has spared no effort in guiding him, he can be considered as one of the most outstanding people among the younger generation in the Raging Wave Mansion. Li En is not simple as well. Although he's a rising star, his innate talent is not inferior to Lu Jian at all. Although he's not as strong as Lu Jian now, it's only because he's younger than Lu Jian. These two people are also saint stage geniuses below the age of 40 in the Raging Wave Mansion. I'm sure they followed Elder Lu here for the mystical Sky Mansion's Saint Martial Secret Zone. Of course, even a fourth-rate force would be tempted by the Saint Martial Secret Zone. As the crowd discussed among themselves, another person from a fourth-rate force appeared. This fourth-rate force was another fourth-rate force in the mystical Sky Mansion. It was called the Tyrannical Saber Mansion. There were a total of 3 people from the Tyrannical Saber Mansion who came. The person in the lead was a burly man with a curly beard who looked similar to Lu Hongguang. However, he was much taller than Lu Hongguang. He was a head taller. The most impressive thing about him was the wide saber on his back. The saber was 3 meters long. It hung on his back, looking majestic and domineering. Elder Lu, the Raging Wave Mansion is really early. The moment the burly man with a curly beard who carried a 3-meter-long saber on his back appeared, he looked at Lu Hongguang and laughed heartily. It was obvious he was familiar with Lu Hongguang. Elder Lin. When Lu Hongguang saw the burly man with a curly beard, he did not hesitate and greeted him with a smile. Elder Lin? At this moment, someone exclaimed in a low voice, "Don't tell me it's the third elder of the Tyrannical Saber Mansion, Heaven-Splitting Saber Lin Kuang? It must be him." Although Elder Lu is only the second elder of the Raging Wave Mansion, his strength is in no way inferior to the Grand Elder of the Raging Wave Mansion. I'm afraid Lin Kuang is the only elder with the surname Lin in the Tyrannical Saber Mansion who can make him treat him so politely. Although Lin Kuang is only the third elder of the Tyrannical Saber Mansion, even the Grand Elder and second elder of the Tyrannical Saber Mansion don't dare to take his heaven-splitting saber head-on. That's right. I've long heard that the Tyrannical Saber Mansion's third elder, Lin Kuang's strength is in no way inferior to the Raging Wave Mansion's second elder, Lu Hongguang. Judging by Elder Lu's attitude, his strength must be as strong as the rumors say. Otherwise, Elder Lu wouldn't treat him so politely. Many people began to talk about the curly-bearded burly man, Lin Kuang. Lin Kuang was also the tyrannical saber mansion's third elder. Behind Lin Kuei, there were two young men and a young woman. The two young men were still fine. Their bodies were sturdy like Lin Kuang, and they were filled with masculine energy. On the other hand, the young woman at the back was not delicate like an ordinary woman. Her body was hot, and she exuded masculine energy that only men should have. With just a glance, one could tell she was a heroine. Most importantly, she had a devilish face. Her willowy eyebrows twitched as though they could speak. The tyrannical saber mansion actually has 3 saint stage geniuses below the age of 40. In the distance, Duan Lingtian could not help but feel surprised. In fact, even the raging wave mansion only had 2 saint stage geniuses below the age of 40. Since it was not his first day in the mystical sky mansion, Duan Lingtian also knew about the tyrannical saber mansion. He knew the tyrannical saber mansion and the raging wave mansion were fourth-rate forces in the mystical sky region. They were also the only 2 fourth-rate forces in the mystical sky region. This woman, soon after, Duan Lingtian discovered there was a woman among the 3 young men from the tyrannical saber mansion. The woman's appearance was so beautiful that it could cause the downfall of a nation. Coupled with her devilish figure, she attracted the attention of all the young men the moment she appeared. Since the mystical sky mansion was recruiting saint stage geniuses below the age of 40, there were a lot of young people. Most of them were young men. It's really a small world. With a raised brow, Duan Lingtian's gaze inadvertently swept across the distance. He saw another familiar figure leading 2 people in the air. In just a blink of an eye, they had already arrived near Lu Hongguang and the other people from the Raging Wave Mansion. The person leading the 3 people was none other than Renzhong, the vice mansion master of Sky Hurdle Mansion. Behind Renzhong, there were 2 handsome young men. As they stood there seemed to be an invisible aura emanating from them. It felt as though a gentle breeze was caressing one's face. It's the people from the Sky Hurdle Mansion. The person leading them is the vice mansion master of Sky Hurdle Mansion, Renzhong. Soon after, someone recognized Renzhong. As time passed by, more and more people from fourth-rate forces arrived. They were all led by a high-ranking official from their respective forces. Usually, there would be 2 or 3 saint stage geniuses below the age of 40 who came. Naturally, there were also some fourth-rate forces that had 4 saint stage geniuses below the age of 40 who came. As time passed by, noon gradually arrived. It's time. The people from the mystical sky mansion should be here soon. All of a sudden, someone said, "That's right." Chapter 17:17. There were a total of 8 people who appeared before everyone's eyes. Among the 8 people, 4 of them were in the lead. These 4 people were either middle-aged men or old men. The other 4 people standing behind them were all young men. I'm the Vice Palace Master of Mystical Sky Mansion's Heaven Palace. I'm the Vice Palace Master of Earth Palace. I'm the Vice Palace Master of Mystical Palace. I'm the Vice Palace Master of Yellow Palace. Under the watchful eyes of Duan Lingtian and the others, the 4 people in the lead introduced themselves one after another. The sound of heavy breathing instantly reverberated in the air. As everyone knew, as a quasi-third-rate force, the mystical sky mansion was divided into 4 palaces. The 4 palaces complemented each other and competed with each other. Among the 4 palaces, the palace master was the leader, followed by the vice palace masters. Currently, the appearance of the vice palace masters of Heaven, Earth, Mystical, and Yellow palaces in Mystical Sky Mansion naturally shocked the people present on the scene. This was because the scene was just too grand. All saint stage geniuses below the age of 40 float in the air. Everyone else stand on the ground. The vice palace master of Heaven Palace, an old man, said in a deep voice as he swept his gaze across the people present on the scene. At once, many young figures rose into the air, including Duan Lingtian. As for the others, they remained on the ground obediently. Including Duan Lingtian, there were a total of 37 people who rose into the air. All of them were Saint Stage Marshal and Dao cultivators below the age of 40. Even in the mystical sky mansion, such geniuses could be considered as top-notch geniuses. There's a total of 37 people. My Heaven Palace wants 10 people, and each of your palaces wants 9 people each. What do you think? At this moment, the Vice Palace Master of Heaven Palace looked at the other 3 Vice Palace Masters and asked. The Heaven Palace was the most powerful palace in the mystical Sky Mansion. It was even stronger than the other 3 palaces. Due to this reason, although the other 3 Vice Palace Masters were dissatisfied with the domineering attitude of the Vice Palace Master of Heaven Palace, they could only nod their heads in agreement. In that case, we'll follow the old rules. Each palace will pick 1 person, and we'll take turns to pick. The Vice Palace Master of Heaven Palace continued to say. However, since my Heaven Palace wants an extra person this time, the selection will start from the Earth, Mystical, and Yellow Palaces. My Heaven Palace will be the last one. The other 3 Vice Palace Masters of the Heaven Palace had no objections. Each hall will pick 1 person and take turns to choose. When Duan Lingtian and the others heard the Deputy Hall Master's words, they could not help but be stunned. After a while, everyone was curious about how the mystical Sky Mansion's 4th palace would select them. Just as they were feeling extremely perplexed, they suddenly felt a powerful and majestic pressure coming from above their heads and pressing down on their bodies, causing their scalps to go numb. At the same time, the powerful pressure seemed to want to completely suppress them. However, in the face of this pressure, everyone used their true essence, and the pressure was greatly reduced. Is this the way to select people? Duan Lingtian thought to himself as he felt the pressure continue to increase. However, this little bit of pressure was nothing to him. From the beginning to the end, he didn't even frown. What happened? This pressure seems to be increasing. If this goes on, even if our strength is not bad, we will still be suppressed. It seems that this pressure is a test. At that time, they'll definitely prioritize those who are not afraid of this pressure. One had to admit that there were still many smart people who could guess the reason for the sudden appearance of the pressure. They gritted their teeth and held on. However, even if they gritted their teeth and gave it their all, many people were still crushed and fell from the sky in a wretched manner. The pressure was still increasing. Gradually, only a few people, including Duan Lingtian, remained on the spot without moving at all. What surprised Duan Lingtian was the female disciple from the tyrannical Saber Mansion actually managed to hold on until now. Moreover, it seemed like she still had some energy left. Not bad. Even Duan Lingtian could not help but praise the female disciple in his heart when he saw how relaxed she was. It seems like there are some good seedlings this time. The Vice Palace Master of Earth Palace looked at Duan Lingtian and the others who were still standing there. His eyes suddenly lit up as he glanced back and forth between Duan Lingtian and the others. It was as though he was considering who he should select. Soon after, someone could not withstand the pressure anymore. At this moment, there were only 3 people, including Duan Lingtian, who were still standing on the spot. Other than Duan Lingtian and the female disciple from the tyrannical Saber Mansion, there was still a sexless cultivator with an ordinary appearance and a medium build. This sexless cultivator was the kind who would not stand out if he was thrown into a crowd. However, the fact that he could still stand until now was enough to show that he was not simple. That female disciple from the tyrannical Saber Mansion is so tenacious. She actually managed to hold on until now. At the same time, many people's gazes landed on the female disciple from the tyrannical Saber Mansion. They did not expect that the last 3 people standing would be a lady. Moreover, it was the female disciple from the tyrannical Saber Mansion. In fact, the other 2 male disciples from the tyrannical Saber Mansion had already fallen from the sky in a wretched manner. Only this female disciple managed to hold on until now. Who said that women were inferior to men? This female disciple from the tyrannical Saber Mansion proudly proved this to everyone. When the Vice Palace Master of Heaven Palace saw that Duan Lingtian, the female disciple from the tyrannical Saber Mansion, and the sexless cultivator did not show any signs of falling, he could not help but frown slightly. Currently, there were 3 people who were the most outstanding. However, he had announced earlier that the Heaven Palace would be the last to pick. Due to this reason, the most outstanding 3 people were destined to have no fate with the Heaven Palace. Time continued to pass by quietly. The pressure continued to increase with every passing moment. Very soon, the sexless cultivator could no longer hold on and fell from the sky. At this moment, Only Duan Lingtian and the female disciple from the tyrannical saber mansion were left. Up until now, Duan Lingtian still acted as though nothing had happened. It was as though he could not feel the pressure at all. On the other hand, the female disciple from the tyrannical saber mansion was already sweating profusely. It was obvious who was stronger and who was weaker. At this critical moment, the pressure suddenly disappeared. It disappeared as quickly as it came. At this moment, Duan Lingtian noticed the pressure had disappeared. Of course, disappearing or not disappearing didn't mean much to the current him. Earlier, the pressure continued to increase. However, when it landed on his body, it felt like a tickle. Putting aside his current cultivation base, just the strength of his physical body alone was not something that could be affected by the pressure. In fact, the strength of his physical body was even more terrifying than a six-clawed divine dragon with the same cultivation base. You, come to our Earth Palace. The Vice Palace Master of Earth Palace, a middle-aged man, said with a smile as he looked at Duan Lingtian. Humph, what's so good about the Earth Palace? Little fellow, it's better for you to come to our mystical palace. Chapter 17-18. The Vice Palace Master of Mystical Palace was an old man with a white beard. Coupled with his long white hair and white eyebrows, he looked like a celestial being. Presently, when he looked at Duan Lingtian, his childlike face revealed a wisp of an amiable smile. Based on the pressure test earlier, it was obvious Duan Lingtian was the most outstanding saint stage genius below the age of 40. Naturally, he had to fight for such a genius. Old man Tian, what do you mean by this? When the Vice Palace Master of Earth Palace saw the Vice Palace Master of Mystical Palace interfering, he felt slightly embarrassed. He said with dissatisfaction, "Don't forget that according to the order, the Earth Palace is the first to pick a disciple. As for the Mystical Palace, you'll have to wait until the Earth Palace picks a disciple before you can pick another one." I know. The Vice Palace Master of Mystical Palace was called Tianji. When he saw the dissatisfaction on the Vice Palace Master of Earth Palace's face, not only did he not feel apologetic, but he even said with a smile, "Indeed, the Earth Palace has the right to pick first. According to the rules, it's also before the Mystical Palace. However, he can still reject you when you pick a disciple, right? If he rejects you, you won't be able to pick him anymore. You'll have to pick another disciple. When it's the Mystical Palace's turn, as long as he's willing, the Mystical Palace can also take him in." Tianji smiled. The moment Tianji's words left his mouth, the Vice Palace Master of Earth Palace was rendered speechless. There was no way he could refute this. Haha, Tianji is right. At this moment, the Vice Palace Master of Yellow Palace also spoke up. He looked at Duan Lingtian and asked with a smile, "Young man, what's your name?" Lingtian. Duan Lingtian did not expect he would attract the attention of the three palace masters of Mystical Sky Mansion, even though he did not do anything special. He was rendered speechless. However, in the face of the Vice Palace Master of Yellow Palace's question, he still told him his current name. Lingtian was his current alias. As for his face, it was also disguised. Although he was still handsome, it was not his original face. Due to the ingenuity of his disguising secret tactic, other people would not be able to see through his disguise at all. Lingtian, what a good name. The Vice Palace Master of the Yellow Palace was a middle-aged man with a medium build. He nodded at Duan Lingtian and continued to say, "Lingtian, as long as you reject the invitation from the first two palaces and enter my Yellow Palace, I, Sun Lin, promise you that you won't have to compete for a spot to enter the St. Martial Secret Zone 3 months later. I can represent the Yellow Palace to give you a spot." Although the voice of the Vice Palace Master of Yellow Palace, Sun Lin, was not loud, due to the quiet environment, his words were easily heard by everyone present. Even the group of people standing on the ground could hear Sun Lin's voice. The Vice Palace Master of the Mystical Sky Mansion's Yellow Palace actually thinks so highly of that young man called Lingtian. He hasn't even joined the Mystical Sky Mansion, but he already promised him a spot to enter the St. Martial Secret Zone. Yeah, it's really surprising. Humph. I noticed that Lingtian was one of the two people who didn't feel pressured from the beginning until the end. Even the female disciple from the tyrannical saber mansion began to tremble in the end. He was the only one who didn't move at all. It was as though he wasn't affected at all. To be able to do that, he must be the strongest among the 36 saint stage geniuses below the age of 40. With such a strong strength, even if he participates in the competition for the spot to enter the Saint Martial secret zone, he'll definitely be able to get a spot. The Vice Palace Master of Yellow Palace's promise may sound good, but he's just doing him a favor. That's indeed the case. The group of people discussed among themselves. However, the way they looked at Duan Lingtian had also changed. The fact that this young man was fought over by the 3 Vice Palace Masters of the mystical Sky Mansion was enough to show his value. He would definitely have a bright future in the mystical Sky Mansion in the future. Renzhong, the Vice Mansion Master of Sky Hurdle Mansion, and Lu Hongguang, the second elder of Raging Wave Mansion, looked at each other and saw the helplessness in each other's eyes. If Li Feng, the person who stood them up, the strongest person on the Rising Sky ranking, appeared here today, he would definitely receive the same treatment as Ling Tian. They were almost certain about this. Unfortunately, Li Feng did not seem to be interested in the recruitment of disciples in the mystical Sky Mansion, so he was not present. Perhaps he's really a seckless cultivator from the upper province of the Dao Martial Saintland. He must have taken a stroll in the Debussy subterranean and returned because he was bored. This was what the two of them thought. However, whether it was Renzhong or Lu Hongguang, both of them would never have imagined that the Saint Stage genius, Ling Tian, who was surrounded by the 3 great Vice Palace Masters of Mystical Sky Mansion, was actually Li Feng. Both of them were the same person. Put aside how shocked the others were. Even the group of Saint Stage geniuses who were suppressed by the pressure looked at Duan Lingtian with envy and jealousy. Who did not want their value to be recognized? This was especially true for people like them who had entered the Saint Stage before the age of 40. Each of them was a prodigy. However, when they gathered together, they felt that they were so ordinary. Under such circumstances, Ling Tian's appearance made them feel ashamed of their inferiority. This was the first time a sense of defeat rose from the bottom of their hearts. Humph, Sunlin, I thought you were going to make a promise. Our Earth Palace can also agree to this promise. The Vice Palace Master of Earth Palace snorted coldly before he looked at Duan Lingtian and said, Ling Tian, as long as you're willing to join our Earth Palace, not only will we give you the qualification to enter the Saint Martial secret zone directly, but we'll also provide you with the best cultivation environment and resources. Moreover, there are many powerhouses in our Earth Palace who can guide you in your cultivation. If you're willing, I, Zhang Qing, the Vice Palace Master of the Earth Palace, am willing to recommend you to become a disciple of the Earth Palace Master. As long as the Earth Palace Master takes a fancy to you, it's not impossible for you to become his direct disciple. It was obvious Zhang Qing was anxious when he saw how popular Duan Lingtian was. Zhang Qing's promise, naturally, shocked many people. They did not expect a young man who had yet to enter the mystical Sky Mansion would be so popular. The female disciple from the tyrannical Saber Mansion stood at the side. From the beginning until the end, her eyes never left Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian was definitely the most outstanding person of the same age as her that she had ever seen. In the past, whether it was in the tyrannical Saber Mansion or outside, she had never seen any martial or Dao cultivators below the age of 40 who could compare to her. Moreover, before she came to the mystical Sky Mansion, she did not think there was anyone who could compare to her. Unless Li Feng from the Rising Sky Mansion's district had come as well. Li Feng was a seckless cultivator who had appeared in the Rising Sky Mansion's district. The moment he appeared, he immediately charged to the top of the Rising Sky ranking and killed Su Jing, the young mansion master of Rising Sky Mansion. It was said that Li Feng was a martial cultivator at the peak of the refined saint stage. If there was anyone among the younger generation that she was completely convinced by, it would definitely be Li Feng. In fact, even she was only at the early refined saint stage, and was close to the intermediate refined saint stage. However, when she saw Ling Tian today, she realized she was just a frog in a well. As it turned out, in the Debussy subterranean, apart from Li Feng, there were other people of the same age who could surpass her in terms of innate talent and strength. Earlier, during the pressure test, both she and Ling Tian had persevered until the end. However, at that time, she was already close to her limit. On the other hand, Ling Tian still had a calm expression on his face, as though he did not feel any pressure at all. It was obvious who was stronger between them. At that moment, a sense of defeat rose in her heart. Due to this reason, she was very interested in this person of the same age who was stronger than her. In fact, as an outstanding woman, she had always been proud and arrogant. Although there was no lack of suitors among the younger generation of male disciples in the tyrannical Saber Mansion, she did not take any of them seriously at all. In her opinion, only a man who was stronger than her was qualified to be with her. In fact, Duan Lingtian had long noticed the gaze of this female disciple from the tyrannical Saber Mansion. However, he could only pretend he did not see it. What else could he do? Look at her and tell her to back off? However, this female disciple from the tyrannical Saber Mansion was obviously not a shy little girl. If he really looked into her eyes, it would most likely backfire. Due to this reason, Duan Lingtian chose to ignore her. What an interesting man. If you're outstanding enough, I, Wang Feixian, don't mind taking the initiative to pursue you. Wang Feixian was the name of this female disciple from the tyrannical Saber Mansion. At the same time, she had another identity. The current mansion master of the tyrannical Saber Mansion was her biological grandfather. The reason she found Duan Lingtian interesting was because this was the first time Wang Feixian had seen a man from the same generation as her who could ignore her. It was as though her charm was completely overshadowed by this man. Duan Lingtian was unaware of Wang Feixian's thoughts. Otherwise, he would have been shocked and would have kept a respectful distance from her. Although Wang Feixian was extremely attractive to men, as a man with two devastatingly beautiful fiancées and a devastatingly beautiful confidant, he had a certain degree of immunity to her beauty. Whether it was Ke, Li Fei, or Feng Tianwu, in terms of beauty, none of them were inferior to Wang Feixian. Tianji, the Vice Palace Master of Mystical Palace, and Sun Lin, the Vice Palace Master of Yellow Palace, were dumbfounded when they saw Zhang Qing, the Vice Palace Master of Earth Palace, making such a heavy promise. Since Zhang Qing had already made such a promise, what else could they take out to compete with him for Ling Tian? At most, the things they could take out were on par with Zhang Qing's. Ling Tian, with your innate talent, I think it's best for you to stay in the Heaven Palace. Just when most people thought Duan Ling Tian would accept Vice Palace Master Zhang Qing's invitation, a voice resonated in the air and attracted everyone's attention. The person who spoke was none other than the Vice Palace Master of Heaven Palace. Chapter 1719. The Heaven Palace is the head palace in the mystical Sky Mansion. It's not appropriate for me to promise you too much now that you've come to the Heaven Palace. However, if you're able to stand out in the Heaven Palace, I guarantee you'll be able to obtain much more than the other palaces. I believe that the other three Vice Palace Masters will not deny this. After the Vice Palace Master of the Heavenly Palace finished speaking to Duan Lingtian, he glanced at the other three Vice Palace Masters. The three Vice Palace Masters smiled wryly when they saw the Vice Palace Master of Heaven Palace had spoken. Tianji, the Vice Palace Master of Mystical Palace, could not help but ridicule, "Old Shao, you're not being kind. It's one thing for the Heaven Palace to ask for 10 spots, but now, you want to monopolize the most outstanding Saint Stage genius as well?" In the mystical Sky Mansion, the Heaven, Earth, Mystical, and Yellow Palaces were led by the Heaven Palace. The Sky Palace had the most experts, and the cultivation resources they possessed were also the best. Therefore, in many aspects, the other three palaces were inferior to the Heavenly Palace. Of course, although the Sky Palace was good, the competition was even greater. Perhaps, with one's strength and talent, one might not be able to enjoy the best treatment in the Sky Palace, but one would be able to enjoy the best treatment in the other three palaces. Therefore, to those who were confident, the Heavenly Hall was undoubtedly the best choice. For ordinary people, the other three palaces were the best choices. If you are willing to give Ling Tian and her to my Heavenly Palace, I will give the others to you. The Vice Palace Master of the Heavenly Palace glanced at Duan Lingtian before shifting his gaze to the female disciple from the tyrannical Saber Mansion. He then shifted his gaze to the lone cultivator who was eliminated by the pressure. The 3 people he named were undoubtedly the most outstanding among the 37 Saint Stage geniuses this time. Thus, after the Vice Palace Master of the Heavenly Palace said those words, the other 3 Vice Palace Masters all shut their mouths and did not respond. What a joke. If they could recruit these 3 most outstanding geniuses under their wing, they would be willing to only have 3 spots. In fact, Duan Lingtian was already tempted when the Vice Palace Master of the Heavenly Palace spoke. The Heavenly Hall was indeed his best choice. Vice Palace Master Zhang, my apologies. Therefore, Duan Lingtian could only apologize to Zhang Qing. It doesn't matter. Even if you didn't come to the Earth Palace, as long as you've entered the mystical Sky Mansion, you're still one of us. 5 Styling XD. Faced with a Saint Stage genius like Duan Lingtian, even though Zhang Qing was the Vice Palace Master of the Earth Palace, he did not dare to be careless. With this Ling Tian's innate talent and strength, as long as he did not die prematurely, he would definitely become one of the mystical Sky Mansion's pillars in the future. It would not be impossible for him to become the Mansion Master in the future. As for becoming one of the Palace Masters of the Heaven, Earth, Mystical, and Yellow Palaces, as long as he could maintain his innate talent, it would not be a problem at all. Seeing that Duan Lingtian had expressed his intention to enter the Sky Hall, the 2 Vice Hall Masters of the Xian Hall and the Yellow Hall could not help but smile bitterly. Only the Vice Hall Master of the Sky Hall had a smile on his face. Since Duan Lingtian was out of the question, Zhang Qing could only set his sights on the female disciple from the tyrannical Saber Mansion. If I'm not mistaken, you must be the little granddaughter of the Mansion Master of Tyrannic Saber Mansion, Wang Feixian, right? Zhang Qing asked. Yes. Upon hearing Zhang Qing's voice, Wang Feixian guiltily withdrew her gaze from Duan Lingtian and turned to look at Zhang Qing. I've long heard about you. A smile appeared on Zhang Qing's face. Speaking of which, your grandfather and I are quite close. Why don't you come to my Earth Palace? In Zhang Qing's opinion, since he had already said so much, Wang Feixian would definitely be willing to go to the Earth Palace. However, the moment his words left his mouth, before Wang Feixian could reply, the Vice Palace Master of Mystical Palace, Tianji, began to poach her again. Girl, in terms of friendship with your grandfather, this Zhang Qing can't compare to me at all. I believe your grandfather must have mentioned me to you before, right? Vice Palace Master Tianji, my grandfather often talks about you as well. Wang Feixian nodded. Haha. Upon hearing Wang Feixian's words, Tianji laughed out loud as though he had expected it. If that's the case, then come to my Earth Palace. With your innate talent and strength, in addition to your grandfather's face, I'll definitely not treat you unfairly. Old man Tian, aren't you going a little overboard? Zhang Qing frowned in dissatisfaction. In terms of friendship, he had only met the Mansion Master of Tyrannic Saber Mansion once. However, Tianji could be considered as a friend of the Mansion Master of Tyrannic Saber Mansion. In this regard, he really did not have any advantage. Upon seeing Zhang Qing's dissatisfied expression, Tianji did not feel apologetic at all. Instead, he chuckled. However, the smile on his face quickly froze. This was because Wang Feixian's voice resonated in his ears. Vice Palace Master Tian, originally, based on your friendship with my grandfather, I should have chosen the Mystical Palace. I would have been able to receive more care there. However, I have a choice now, and it's not the Mystical Palace. I'm sorry, not the Mystical Palace. When these 4 words entered Tianji's ears, it was no different from a bolt from the blue. Haha. When Zhang Qing saw Tianji was stunned, he could not help but laugh out loud. Old man Tian, are you dumbfounded? This girl from the Wang clan is an honest person. I invited her first, but she still gave up on your Mystical Palace and came to our Earth Palace. Humph. Tianji glanced at Zhang Qing indifferently and snorted. Zhang Qing's action was no different from rubbing salt on his wound. Vice Palace Master Zhang, I'm afraid you've misunderstood. I don't intend to go to the Earth Palace. I want to go to the Heaven Palace. When Wang Feixian reached the end of her sentence, she glanced at Duan Lingtian, causing Duan Lingtian's scalp to go numb. Could it be that this valiant young miss followed him to the Heaven Palace because he was going to the Heaven Palace? It was no wonder Duan Lingtian had such doubts. When Wang Fei Xian made this decision, she had been looking at him from the beginning until the end. Even the Vice Palace Master of Heaven Palace, Wang Fei Xian, did not look at him at all. Ha 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 ha. Zhang Qing, little Wang doesn't want to go to your Earth Palace. Aren't you being too full of yourself earlier? Why didn't I realize you're so thick-skinned before this? This time, it was Tianji's turn to laugh. Zhang Qing, on the other hand, had an awkward expression on his face. Earlier, when he saw Wang Fei Xian had rejected Tianji, he thought Wang Fei Xian wanted to come to his Earth Palace. It did not cross his mind that he had misjudged her. The Heaven Palace welcomes you. When the Vice Palace Master of Heaven Palace saw Wang Fei Xian had taken the initiative to join the Heaven Palace, he smiled. At the same time, he looked at Duan Lingtian meaningfully. He could see Wang Fei Xian seemed to be interested in this saint stage genius named Lingtian. He had heard of Wang Fei Xian before this. Although she was young, she was already an early refined saint stage martial cultivator. She was not far away from breaking through to the intermediate refined saint stage. With such innate talent, she could be ranked in the top 10 among the younger generation in the Heaven Palace. That Lingtian is even stronger than Wang Fei Xian. His cultivation base is at least at the intermediate refined saint stage. There are only 3 intermediate refined saint stage powerhouses below the age of 40 in our mystical sky mansion. He can be considered as the 4th one. The Vice Palace Master of Heaven Palace thought to himself as he glanced at Duan Lingtian. The depressed Vice Palace Master of Earth Palace, Zhang Qing, shifted his gaze to the sexless young man who was eliminated in the end. Don't tell me you're thinking of going to the Heaven Palace as well? Although the Heaven Palace is good, I think the Earth Palace is more suitable for me. Although the sexless young man had an ordinary appearance, he was very good-looking when he smiled. It was as though he was bathing in the spring breeze. In his opinion, with his innate talent and strength, although he would receive more resources if he entered the Heaven Palace, it would definitely not be as exaggerated as Lingtian and Wang Fei Xian. He still understood the saying, "It's better to be the head of a lion than the tail of a phoenix." Haha, great. The Earth Palace welcomes you. Upon hearing this, Zhang Qing immediately laughed out loud. At the same time, he looked at Tianji provocatively. Although the latter was extremely annoyed, he could not be bothered with Zhang Qing when he noticed Zhang Qing's gaze. Unlike Duan Lingtian, Wang Fei Xian, and the sexless young man, the remaining 34 saint stage geniuses below the age of 40 were randomly divided among the 4 palaces. Duan Lingtian stood behind the Vice Palace Master of Heaven Palace with Wang Fei Xian by his side. He looked around and saw 2 familiar faces among the 10 people from the Heaven Palace. One of them was none other than Lu Jian, the disciple of Lu Hongguang, the second elder of Raging Wave Mansion. The other person came with the Vice Mansion Master of Sky Hurdle Mansion. He was a young genius from Sky Hurdle Mansion. If there's a chance, I'll help them out. Consider this as returning a favor to Vice Mansion Master Ren and Elder Lu, Duan Lingtian thought to himself. He still felt guilty when he thought about the incident where he stood them up. Whether it was Ren Zhong or Lu Hongguang, both of them had taken care of him during the Rising Sky ranking battle. He owed them a favor, and that was why he felt guilty. Disciples of the various palaces, please follow the Vice Palace Masters of the various palaces back to their respective palaces. As for the others, please leave the mystical Sky Mansion's estate. After 15 minutes, there will be patrolling disciples chasing you away. Please leave as soon as you can, the Vice Palace Master of Heaven Palace said as he glanced at the group of people on the ground. The group of people on the ground was here to accompany the Saint Stage Geniuses. They were basically the friends and family of the Saint Stage Geniuses. When they heard the Vice Palace Master of Heaven Palace's words, they immediately turned around and left. Hey, Lingtian, are you a sexless cultivator? Why don't I see your friends and family? Suddenly, a soft voice resonated by Duan Lingtian's ears. A fragrance wafted into his ears, causing Duan Lingtian to feel a little restless.
Yes.
Duan Lingtian nodded when he heard Wang Fei Xian's voice. Sexless cultivators are really amazing. First, there's Li Feng, and now, there's a freak like you. I really don't know how sexless cultivators like you manage to cultivate to this stage without any support. Wang Fei Xian sighed emotionally. Li Feng? Upon hearing Wang Fei Xian's words, the corner of Duan Lingtian's mouth twitched slightly. What? Don't tell me you don't know Li Feng? Wang Fei Xian asked. Of course, I know him. Speaking of which, he's my friend. Duan Lingtian smiled faintly. What? Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Wang Fei Xian's eyes widened as she said in disbelief, Why you said Li Feng is your friend? That's right. Is there a problem? Duan Lingtian nodded as a mischievous smile appeared on his face. Li Feng's friend? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.